This is Viva Fry.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall.
This is JP Sears.
Hi, this is Frank Peretti.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Tuesday. How's everybody doing today? Did you know you can hold physical gold and silver in your registered accounts, and Silver Gold Bull can help you unlock the potential of your RRSP, TFSA, RRIF, or Kids RESP by adding physical gold and silver to your account. And if you've been paying attention to silver, because silver is a wagon, of course it's on the uptick. It, as I'm sitting here, is 121.79, up 5% today. As I sit here, that's Canadian. So silver, bouncing all over the place. Silver is a wagon, folks. I just love that. Shout out to Nick for putting that in my brain. It is stuck there. This year's RRSP deadline for making contributions into your account is March 2nd. So that is coming up here right away. But once the contribution is made, you can invest it in physical precious metals at any time. So, if you're wanting more details on that or any deals exclusively to you, the SMP listener, reach out to Grahame. It's all down in the show notes. RecTech Power Products. For over 20 years, RecTech Power Products has been committed to excellence in the power sports industry. When you drive into Lloydminster, it's one of the unofficial border markers here in town. They've got everything from aluminum, Alberta-built aluminum trailers to, Lund fishing boats. Yes, somebody's chuckling at me. I think it was Tues, right? It was yesterday. Yes, my brain's all over the place. And he was making fun of me about talking about deck season. You know what? I don't care. We're at the end of February. Sun's shining a bit more. I don't care what it throws at us in March. I'm looking forward to deck season being back upon us. And that means if the deck season is here, fishing season is definitely here. And when you're looking at RecTech, they've got everything from your Lund fishing boats to your pontoon boats, your Sea-Doo, the Switch, a few different things there. They've got a lot of water stuff. And then, the inter-time or the in-between time where it goes from snow to just that mushy crap. Well, if you're a quadder, side-by-side, etc., you're having lots of fun. They got those too. So RecTechPowerProducts.com, that's where you can see their whole lineup. I suggest stopping in Monday through Saturday. They're open, the showroom on the west side of Lloydminster. PlanetCom, when you're busy running and growing a business, trying to stay on top of the ever-changing world of information tech can be overwhelming to say the least. When you get a staph infection in your leg and it puts you out for way too long, I tell you what, Carl and team is there to make sure that your website's safe, that things are ticking along in the back end, and shout out to all the team over at PlanetCom. You're looking for a website, you're looking for internet security, look no further than PlanetCom, planetcom.ca. You can go see their handiwork at theshaunnewmanpodcast.com. We got some cool things coming up on there that we're going to be working on as well for all of you fine folks. We're not quite there just yet. Once again, this guy had to go down and out for way too long. The Cornerstone Forum. Holy Mackinac. Just over a month away, folks. Just over a month away. We've got a few tickets remaining. Okay? Few. I know I've been on all you procrastinators. Procrastinate no more. Okay? We're running out of time. We're running out of tickets. You're running out of runway. Head to Cornerstone Forum. showpass.com/Cornerstone26 and grab your tickets. It's down in the show notes. Grab a ticket before it is too late. Yes, we got a full lineup coming back to Calgary. Tom Luongo, Alex Kreiner, Vince Lanchi, Matt Ayer, Chad Prather, Karen Kotowski, Sam Cooper, Tom Bodrovics, Twos, Larry C. Johnson, Neil Oliver, Premier Danielle Smith. Yeah, what are you waiting for? Go grab a ticket today before they're all gone. March 28th, back in Calgary. If you're listening or watching to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, Substack, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a review. If you're enjoying the show, share with a friend. Now, let's get on to that tale of the tape. Today I'm joined by an ordinary Albertan family who dove into independent research and found themselves immersed in today's culture wars, from questioning mainstream narratives to advocating for freedom, sovereignty, Alberta independence, and traditional principles. I'm talking about Mike and his daughters Macy and Madison Holmes. So buckle up, here we go. Welcome to the Shaun Newman podcast. Today I'm joined by the Holmes Clan.
So quick. I was like not ready
Game
for that.
on.
We got Mike, Macy, and Madison. First off, thanks for coming. Thanks for making the tour and coming to what twos would call the Bat Cave. But certainly you're in a select few that have actually been here yet. So we did a few in December. Then we had to shut this place down while we finished a whole bunch of things up. And now we're back in. As the days and weeks and months progress, there will be more and more people get to experience what you're sitting in. But you're into my world. This has been a labor of love. And as you pointed out with the wall, Mike, I should give a shout out to all the companies that helped put this together. But, I don't know. I guess before we get into anything too heavy, because we've been talking a lot this morning, your thoughts on the studio, just for the audience sake, right? Because lots
Sure,
of them,
but let's ladies first.
Sure.
Okay.
Deferring, putting you on the spot.
Well, being in a podcast realm ourselves now, I mean, you said this was the dream and you drew it on a napkin. And this is pretty much, I feel like this is what most podcasters aspire to, and you're well on the way. So it's really inspiring for us little Joe Blows that aren't there yet. But this is the goal, and it's amazing to
Says
see.
one of the UCP rising stars.
Oh gosh, don't pull that card.
We aren't going there yet. Oh, no.
That's a little early.
I wanted to be like, the chairs are comfortable.
Exactly.
I love the hanging cameras for the angles. I love it. It's really good.
Well, I was sitting, my story before we get into too much, I was sitting I didn't want to go to the UCP AGM this year. Nothing against we were just talking about social media, and if I were to give myself a failing grade on what I'm doing right now, my social media is probably very lacking. But you were pointing out, Madison, like how much time it takes to run all of them successfully, and I'm like, I just want to spend time with my kids. I know that sounds a little bit I don't know, not corny, but like it's just important, right? And so you get home and it's like I could sit on my screen for 6 hours uploading this, that, and the everything. But there's just certain things that are really important, and I don't know where I was going. This has been my brain.
No, the AGM is one of them because
the AGM is why I didn't want to go.
It's
Is
like
because
an
of the kids on the
obelisk,
weekend.
right?
And then I went.
Yeah, I get it.
Then I went, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden you two walk on stage. I'm like, hey, I know these people. I should go say hello.
Aww.
Well, to keep on track with the first question, that's really just like being able to be in this studio. First things first, got to say thank you for just the invite, the opportunity. I think at some point in time, I know that we'll get into the origin story of like the clan and how we came to where we are, but we're in a closet. Literally, like our studio is a closet.
Yes.
It's like
It used to be mom and dad's walk-in closet. Like
Yeah,
for
but
the
that's how
clothes.
good origin stories start. It's not like, dad thinks of this and you go spend $100,000 or $200,000 and you build something fancy. It's
Right.
like, I mean, don't get me wrong. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure you two would think that would be nice, eh?
my years of throwing rig money.
I was
at
going to say,
problems
when
is
back when
behind
you were
me.
working the rigs, maybe.
maybe when I was rigging, I might have been able to chuck stuff, but I was a much different man to the world
Not
that we're
just
in
that,
now.
there's also a level, because the thing is, like, me and Macy grew up, dad's very articulate, if people haven't noticed that know him, and the podcast idea was originally something that our brother kind of messed around with, saying, oh, Dad, you could do a podcast, and Seb was thinking I'll be the guy in the chair. But our family, even that rising star comment, I felt more humbled. What made me emotional was just the fact that, people, they said it was one of the most nominations for an award that they had gotten. And that's just the community. You're a community guy. I didn't grow up with these people, but these people watching me and Macy, because they were what they wish they could have done. They were the future in their eyes. And so some rising star award for the UCP. It's like, I don't want to be a politician, a career politician. I think people that want to be politicians for a living, I'm concerned about their mental health. But what was emotional was the fact that all these people wanted to invest in us. And so that was how the podcast for us really got going, was because me and Macy and Sebastian believed in our dad. Our dad was this rigger for 17 years, but he's been listening to things. He read the Bible 7 times. Anytime he gets into something, he really goes into it deep. And we just wanted his brain shared with the world. That was the motivation for the podcast.
We started.
That was the motivation.
The motivation was not us. It was actually our dad Mike. It's because we were like, before.
You kind of got a face for radio. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's my
You know
comment.
what? I get the same thing.
Like, I got to advertise with a hat because I got a 5 head, so I might as well put it to good use with wearing good hats.
Well, actually, like, okay, this is like a deviation, but he was in like young modeling at some point when he had hair. But anyways, so he did have a good face. I mean, you do have a good face.
It's all right. You can say did. I'm okay with that.
No.
But
I'm
like,
okay with that.
it started before
Mike Holmes, the model.
It was a thing.
So
It was
there's
a
actually a
thing.
funny story about that, but we don't even need to get into that. That would be like a different one under the rigger category because
Yeah.
we literally brought a bunch of riggers in for some modeling. It was like an idea between a whole bunch of dudes that wanted to like mess around with modeling. We had the money to throw at modeling agencies. So we just did it for shits and giggles because the one thing that they
bunch
don't
of
have
riggers.
is but just the one thing is that we laugh because most of us are relatively strapping gentlemen and work hard and right you're throwing tongs
You're
and you're out in the
pumping
cold
iron,
and
right?
you're,
Yeah.
so
Well,
you're,
what is-
you're big, you're kind of
realize
handsome
you-
and you're strong.
You realize you're ahead of your time, right? Because you look at what is it Tyler Sheridan and Taylor? Who's the guy who did Yellowstone and,
the
Landman?
Landman.
Have you watched Landman?
Yeah,
We're in the middle of it.
We're in the middle of
season
it.
Doesn't
two.
it? I could be wrong. Doesn't it feel like propaganda for the oil field?
Oh, yeah.
Not only is it propaganda for the oil field, it's propaganda for
the
conservatives.
conservatives.
Yeah.
Sure. But you know, like, what are they
Yeah.
doing? They're trying
Yeah.
to make oil field look cool. And
Yeah.
if you've
Yeah.
worked in it and you've earned the money from
I don't
it,
know
and
how they're
everything-
doing now when they show an accident every other day.
know.
That is
I know,
not
I'm
how
like,
the
this
industry
looks
played
terrifying.
out. Like they
I agree.
they tried to compound years and years and years of mistakes that had happened for all sorts of various reasons. Because I read all those hazard alert bulletins during my time on the iron. Because there was so many guys, you know, that Target Zero push that all those bureaucratic
Yes.
morons were pushing.
Yes.
So when that came into the industry and I started way back then, I would be in the doghouse and there'd be guys because like you're the worm, you're the low guy on the totem pole, but I came from a different background for communication skills. Like I was more like a drama kid. Somebody tells you to go get a pipe wrench. I'm like, what's that? Right? Because I wasn't a farm boy. But none of them wanted to talk in public because they started making sure that these meetings were happening and that you're reading hazard alert bulletins. So I had an entire crew that shirked their duty on to me as the new guy. So I read every single hazard alert bulletin. I read every single manual for every piece of equipment that the rig had to offer so that I could host meetings because nobody else wanted to do them. And BP, Amoco, Shell, like I don't care, pick your poison. They're the ones that are like, you got to come in a half an hour early. You're going to be paid, but you're going to have this meeting because Target Zero is our agenda, like zero carbon. Like just a really dumb idea that somebody thought up for insurance purposes to bring down insurances, but they don't care about what it actually takes on the drilling rig. So all that to say, I learned how to like go through manuals and have these articulate conversations. And so when I'm looking at what's going on Landman, I'm like, this was a compilation paid for by blood and honorable men over however many years of the evolution of the industry. And you're trying to jam it into a show and you're showing accidents that when I look at it for the reality of someone that's in the industry, I'm like, that wouldn't happen, that wouldn't happen, that wouldn't happen. Especially in Canada, we have some of the highest. I got my rig technician ticket. I actually went when they were grandfathering all the other people for the industry. I said, no, I had enough hours. I could have been grandfathered in. I said, no, I want to know what you're teaching. So I went to school just so I could see what the rig technician course out of SAIT was going to be all about. Because I wanted to know, how are you going to teach my boys that are going to come out? You know, you're going to fill their heads full of bullshit. I want to go through it so I understand what bullshit you're pumping
What
into
you have
them
to
so that I
unteach.
can undo some of it when we get out into the field because their lives and their importance was that and getting back to my clan, being the same dude that I was on the rig to what I was at home. Anyway, sorry, you got me going on a subject that I'm quite passionate about.
Because that's the entire. We watch shows every night that allows us to spend time together because we do dinner and a movie after we've worked till 8 o'clock doing whatever it is we're doing. And every show we watch, some house guests like it and some do not. we talk about what we're watching and what we're breaking down. So me and Mace are like, what gas just, injured all of those men? He's like, that's H2S. And then he'll break down how, it's not realistic or it is, and this is how the pump
Me and
will
Mike would have been
actually go.
sitting side by side on that one. All I
Yes.
dealt with for
Yeah.
years was H2S. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is Now, this is ridiculous. But anyways, my wife's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, let me tell
So
you.
you're saying it's propaganda for the oil field? I'm like, I don't know.
Well-
I mean, I don't think that's encouraging fellas to go and do the job. And we need good men doing that job.
Well, yes and no, though, because
We
I
don't
mean,
need good men doing
no,
that.
no, we definitely do. But I meant like the propagandas and discouraging them. Like I don't know, because when it comes to some young men, they don't have much of a. If they especially don't feel like they've had any sort of discipline, but they want purpose in their life, then it's the thing with like the whole greatest generation, like that came in the psyche of a lot of old generation, like our grandpa, where he was like, I wish that, I could have been a part of the First World War, the Second World War, right? And like they think that that's like such an honorable thing, right?
Yeah.
So like a rig man is actually not even, we were in like Tim Hortons and Dad was saying like Roger that, and they were like, are you in the military? Like, rig. And so it's still like there
copy that.
still is
People
a sort of
conflate it.
correlation between rig men and military, and like for young men that feel like they either lacked discipline, and so they're trying to figure out who's going to be your father figure. It's going to be the giant military corporation. It's like, all right, but you also have that essence of like The Boys and the Band of Brother movies and all of these things that show the camaraderie.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, but that's also unfortunately where it gets manipulated, because a lot of these young men, they don't know exactly which war they're going to fight for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I guess I look at it and I go, money, beautiful women, opportunity, danger.
Yep.
And I go,
Yeah.
what do young men want? I'm like,
Oh,
to
yeah.
me,
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
me,
no, I get it.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Like, I mean,
Yep.
when you're talking about modeling, but like where we started this
Yeah.
at, like what
Where they
what did the
started
what did,
this.
what did the yes, fair enough. What did the oil patch miss back? Is you had to make it, I don't know, appetizing to the general public, because what they've done is they've demonized it now for
Right.
Yes.
20 years, 30 years,
Yeah.
whatever the time frame is.
Yeah.
And so people have forgotten how important it is.
Right.
And you think we could never forget that. Well, we forgot that, there's men and women.
Right.
We somehow forgot that one.
Yep.
I
And-
didn't forget that one.
Well,
Yeah,
I know
I'm
you
picking up
did.
what you
Yes,
ran down.
But somehow, like we're sitting, well, boys can be girls. It's like, no, they can't.
No.
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And so you think the oil field, what you're doing was in a way like was trying to point to, hey, you can be fit and work at the oil field, make good money.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
all the different things, right? And
Yeah.
and although I don't love everything in land, man, it's cool to see very sharp, competent men, even though I disagree with a whole bunch of it,
Yeah.
be in there and trying to expose, some of the stupidity that looks at the oil field
Right.
in ways, right?
Yeah.
Even like them talking about drilling under the sea, like, do I, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? I don't know if, because I've never drilled under the sea, right? Like, that's one of the
Yeah,
ones I'm
yeah.
like, how accurate is that?
Right.
Like, I assume, like there's a truth in there when they're talking about drilling all the way down and explaining it out. Like, yeah, I don't mind all this being.
Yeah, there's some framework. The language is something I'm familiar with, obviously, but when it comes to the details of the logistics for the operations and the details that it deserves, I find that obviously when you're part of the industry and you're in that world, you're speaking sort of like a different language when you would come home. Maybe not so much to like your average Albertan, but when I did early filming back when you had like the early VCR cameras, like
Okay.
because when
Just
I
to
would
date
come
yourself.
off the rig with that too, when I would come off the rig. And you would try to kind of explain, like the family would ask, like, how are things? What'd you do? Like, and there was no connection. The missus didn't have a connection to that world. Like, she didn't have her parents weren't a part of rigging. And I only got into it because the guy said, we need minds like yours because we're in this transition from the old dogs and all the farmers' kids that would come out and do the thing. That's getting less and less. And the thing is we're going to need this the bridge. And he's like, so you're a good guy. At that time I was highly religious, so he's like, you got this moral constitution. You've got a capability of communicating on a level that most riggers don't communicate like. So he was hoping that I'd get involved in the industry and be that old school, new school, because there's
Bridge.
another generation of young guys. And that ended up actually being the case for myself when I went down to work in the United States to help train and build guys up, is that there was this younger demographic because it's a military transition, much to what even Macy said. There's a hierarchy in the military that provides a constant that works for young guys that come into the field, and they do the bootstrap indoctrination of the military, but we have a hierarchy on the rigs. And what I didn't know, and I learned when I went down there, is that that's actually one of the rehabilitation programs for the guys that came from the GWAT and, the global war on terror stuff and doing the Afghanistan thing. When they would come back to get integrated in society, the oil field was one of the primary places that they would slot in. So I worked with a ton of ex-military guys, lots of them. They're bright, capable thinkers, but it's like to get reintegrated back into because even how they consider civvies and plebs, they don't operate on the same level like them. So I got mistaken for a military guy all the time because the Canadian, were assholes in the patch, to be completely honest, especially with our superiority complex as Canadians going into the U.S. And you learn real fast to get polite because every one of those guys got a gun on location, whether they care about that rule from the company or not. And so you find your more polite version of yourself, but that hierarchy means something to them, and they integrated really well. But the communication style, you couldn't just run the old school, run your mouth, sink or swim, baptism by fire that Canadians often did. That's why, being beaten with poles and getting frozen pop cans thrown at you and kicked up and down stairs. I remember getting my teeth cut into the patch way back when. It was that transition. They were going from the old school baptism by fire, target zero bureaucracy. You can barely get anything done because you got so much paperwork and JSAs to fill out before you go do a job.
It plays into the landman thing though that we're talking about, because I like because he's our dad, so we grew up with a lot of his rigor stories and the idiosyncrasies that are associated with it, and so we got a bit of sort of rigor wisdoms thrown at us as kids, but just to understand a bit more of the dynamics of the world of men. And that was really helpful for me and Maddie growing up. But I think that the question I would have now with the whole landman thing is why now, right? Because it actually made me think of Doomsburg's episode that you did with him, because I'm like, if they want to unstick oil, you got to make oil look cool again, right? And and all of what the inner meshings of it is beautiful, and there is something ugly and also but very you get to rise out of that and learn a lot of shit, a lot of good shit, nose to the grindstone type stuff, right? But then I'm just thinking on the larger picture for a geopolitical landscape. I'm I know that Carney wants to unstick Alberta's oil for a war in Europe that we want nothing to do with, right? So we're so why, when I just thought it was a brilliant observation on Doomsburg part, where it's what happens when the oligarchs want to pivot on their back foot and take back what they've been sowing with the whole climate change agenda, right? It's now Bill Gates gets to say that it doesn't exist anymore and it's going to be fine. I'm we're just going to allow that to happen?
Well, yeah, because we call it the 4-to-1 rule, which is basically just 3 parts truth to 1 lie. But they'll give you how oil is everywhere, not to take it for granted, and yet they'll still run on the peak oil theory, which is not true. So it's funny watching those two dynamics, because you get everybody, those shorts that Billy Bob Thornton's character went out with, and then the other one, those went viral. But then nobody talks about they're just going to slide in peak oil and that we're still, technically doomed in terms of our energy, scarcity. It's no, but that's fine. We'll just wash over that. We can put that away. But it's actually funny, Macy, that you kind of alluded to the dynamic about being raised by a rigger as women, because on so many podcasts we listen to, both men and women are trying to figure out, Dad was listening to a podcast with, it was Tommy and Tom Luongo, Ian Burlingame, and they were talking about the crazy white women, the Western women today that are helping the degradation of our society because of all of the righteousness and then the indignation. But we have, and there was a term that Ian Burlingame throws around, estrogen warfare. The podcast you did with him the first time you had him on, and he was talking about, the divorce and the crazy woman. And me and Macy kind of laughed because growing up with, a rigger for a father, there was a little bit of that tomboy, but not tomboy in the sense of getting dirty, going out of your way to do guy-like things, but just we didn't we
I
weren't.
did tea parties.
Yeah, he still did tea parties with us, right? So he still,
It was
he's
kind of
raised
like
us-
we were taught on acts of service.
Yes,
like
service.
we didn't necessarily have that. I think what's been manipulated in women today, and me and Maddie just read a book by Mega Lillywhite, and it's like called "Girl Everlasting" on, I think, romance, love, and virtue. And it sounds really gay at first, like just that title just does not give you the context. But what it was her talking about, she wrote an essay called "In Defense of the Girly Girl," and I was like, oh, this is interesting, because like at first we would have considered our tendencies to be more tomboyish, right? Because we did have that mentality of like you can get stuff done yourself, right? And it wasn't because you're better than a guy. It just meant like you need to be useful. Like you need to be able to do things.
Skills are
and
across
and in
genders,
it, she was like, I think like one of the things she posed with the problem where women went wrong is that they got so enmeshed into like the tomboy essence, and they favored it above other things like being a feminine female, for example, that it kind of created a sort of like complex where they were actually like what turned into tomboy and I want to be more masculine, and actually like almost damn near like a worshiping of the male essence in a female, though, is what kind of downgraded men, because it was like, well, I don't need you anymore. And it's like, whoa,
It also
that's not
downgrades
true.
women because we just can't do that. The thing about service and understanding the rigor world, it's like Dad always said, the men are on there for their families and for the future.
Primary motivation.
And so there was another podcast with, who was that one on? It was Colonel Towner, E.M. Burlingame. Was that also on Tommy?
Good possibility of Crypto Rich. They've been.
Yeah, but it was all of
compilations.
these colonels in military, and the thing is, when E.M. Burlingame had made that, he's saying that estrogen warfare and it's the estrogen women out there. She didn't get offended. Like, not even, she immediately laughed and went, I get what you mean. But she comes from the military, and so she's been in the world of men, and even though she herself is still a very feminine woman, she understands a dynamic that I think me and Macy also understand, that we don't get offended when those comments come around. Because a lot of women are offended by the male world, but not understanding half of the male's world is for the female. So I'm like, that's one thing that about our family that we always grew up reading. We started with Jordan Peterson and psychology. When Dad and Mom dropped us off for school, they would say, love a lemming, don't be a lemming. Understanding our own brains in the sense of we are very capable of being like every other person on the planet. If one friend of ours makes a bad decision, we can succumb to peer pressure. But think about it. We are giving you the gift of awareness to understand that's a possibility. So at least if something comes your way, you can take 0.2 seconds to think about it before you do it. It just gives you the option not to be the bell curve. And so when it came to growing up with psychology, and then we found, the master and his emissary who taught us about the brain work, me and Macy, I believe we've been very blessed because that has helped us not just as young people, because young people don't know their brains, and so all of us are mentally ill, just like default being an adolescent. Adolescents are just, you have to default, like, yes, you're mentally ill because your brain's not developed. Just accept that, makes everything easier to manage. But the second part is also being women, because if you don't understand your estrogen and you don't understand your neuroticism, then you lash out at everything. You get manipulated so much easier by the medical industry, by politics when you get involved.
Education. Yeah.
The education system. They manipulate all of that because you don't know how much in you is easy to manipulate. And that's on a biological level as well. And so
that's why like one of our family's mottos was kind of like, you need to learn what you are to negotiate who you are. Right? And what you are...
Say it one more time.
You need to learn what you are to better negotiate who you are. So when we got into that sort of ethos, it was diving into... Again, it started with the internet, like intellectual dark web. And so we were reading Gad Saad's work and Jonathan Haidt. And he came up with the idea of like the happiness hypothesis with the free rider and the elephant. And we were like, oh, okay. And then we started... But it kind of transitioned into the Master and his Emissary, and then what we kind of. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
We've gone all over the place, and like our origin story, there's a through line, but I mean we're game on. Here we are.
Okay, wait. I'm going to do one thing before we move on. Okay? one of the. Oh, I can't. No,
No shuffleboard.
You gotta wax the table.
One of the.
This is gonna go right across.
One of the things about people coming to the new studio or in person is been the 1 ounce silver coin, which is, I sit and talk to Silver Gold Bull about it, right? When we first started doing this, I want to say it was $38. I keep saying that, and I should just go look. But it was less than 40.
Thank you.
And
Oh, you're giving this to us? I thought you were just showing it.
No.
Check out my coins.
for coming to the studio,
Thank
we
you.
started this 2.5, 3 years ago, and I mean, like Silver, I
So $33 when we started, kind of like
stacking it up.
Well, no, yeah, right.
Well, no.
I can't throw money at those kind of problems, man.
let me be honest. I wish I had a stack to the ceiling, but I don't.
Yeah.
Right? I think a lot of us wish we had a stack to the ceiling. But there was a time where it was like, even in my memory, it was like $30 some. I'm like, I just don't got the money.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I wish I had
Absolutely.
diverted more money to it.
Yeah. The COVID debacle is what really helped sort of reframe the world for myself especially, but
this
my
is the
clan.
smartest way to encourage people to get silver is putting it in their hand, though,
and having a large family where we all know this comes to one household.
It's back up. So once again, by the time it airs tomorrow. So like, I mean, we're recording this in less than 24 hours. It airs. So sitting here, the silver price is 119.60 Canadian.
Wow.
Right.
Well, hopefully when there's the financial collapse that we all know is coming, there's going to be a farmer or two that loves my family enough to be willing to trade this for some eggs and beef when the time comes.
So So it's cool that you know the value of silver, right? Like I'm always interested when I give it to somebody and they're like, "Oh, that's really cool." I'm like, "Oh, they don't get it."
Yeah.
Oh no,
like,
we get it.
We're making a long-term deposit.
Yeah.
You're right. Oh my
Now
gosh.
I'm curious. Question to all of you, because you've and I didn't want to interrupt, but I just kind of want to know.
Oh, good luck, eh?
It is probably a dad question to start with. At what point did you go, I'm going to inject the dark web into their collective education?
Oh, great. Let's flip the script. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
So my son and his best friend, the betrothed to Madison, so my future son-in-law at some point, his clan was moving, and Sebastian and his buddy, he wanted to stay and create a life for himself in Calgary. They were going back to Ontario. So we ended up opening up our doors to allow him to stay, because we figured that, at some point, this was pre-2020, obviously. We figured that, him and Sebastian would probably end up like moving out together, doing the thing and trying to get their life started in Calgary. They were in the meme generation, because iGen is about memes and so forth. And so what ended up happening is they were the ones that came across Peterson and the Pepe memes and all of those kinds of things. And they kind of they were laughing about a thing, and it was in the zeitgeist of the household, but it was never taken with any type of seriousness. I stumbled upon it, and it was a few of the lines and a few of the ethoses that were being offered. And I said, I think there's something more here than you guys are giving credit for than just the meme entertainment. And so I just started poking around. And as Madison had alluded to earlier, there was a time when I was very highly involved in the church. And because I came from a very tumultuous background, so when I find myself, it's time to get engaged in something, and it's time to learn where you are and understand the map of the world that you're in. When I got into the born again realm of Christianity, Pentecostal more specifically at that time in my life, I locked myself away for a weekend with a Bible, and I read it front to back. Then I did it the next weekend. Then I did it the next weekend. Then I did it the next weekend. And reason being is that when you have a background, you could rip me apart. If there was social media like there is now for what I went through in my past, I would canceled. Of course it'd be canceled. I'm the regular human being that everyone else is. and some people don't have the courage to talk about. They'd rather just let that be in their past, and that'll be enough is enough. I'm not ashamed of what I was. I'm not proud of what I was, but that's my life. That's a different story. And to answer, because I want to give some context to get to the question, that updating, it's something that I'm not afraid of. I'm not afraid of, like, because sometimes you get that, that still framework. You think you know a thing, and so you'll stay operating within that thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, I understand that natural conservatism, there is some value in that, but that's an incomplete analysis because life isn't stasis. Right. So when they came across Peterson and they were looking at it as a meme, and I was scratching a little bit beneath the surface going, I think there's something here of value. I went whole hog. And so I consumed, like, not just Peterson and all his lectures, but if anyone on a podcast or when he brought up his website for his reading list, I consumed the whole reading list. Just read everything. And then if he had a guest, I read their book. If they had 2 books, I read both their books. Like, to me, I was like, all right, well, whatever this thing is. So that started me. So like, there's a legitimate intellectual curve. And as I was rolling through that, there would be some
like
excitement.
The industrial revolution of Dad's brain.
Yeah, right. And so then because we're a communicative family, I'm sharing and talking about just naturally, we'd be sitting around a table like this. Like, you're kind of even watching how the dynamic of what we are as a clan, that's how that plays out. Like, this isn't for the show. This is just us. And
we interrupt each other all the time.
All the time.
Well, it reminds, actually, I say this about this room in particular. When I had 2s in here, right? One-on-one, 2s. It was a great interview. It was fun having you in here, but the room is better when it's full.
Yeah, of course.
A round table is better when it has people sitting around the round table. And what this reminds me, this dynamic reminds me of when I sit across from the brothers. Because when the brothers are out, you don't have to wait for somebody to finish. You're already interjecting, and it's very natural. And that's what you get. So carry on.
Yeah. So that's coming around to answer the question about, like, how
the dark web and how you start. Yes.
Yeah, like
the boys.
And then to transition that to us, it's like, it wasn't Dad. Okay, the fun thing about their dynamic, and I had to ask myself this question, because if I want to be a parent one day, I want to ask, how the hell did he get me and Maddie and Sebastian on board with some of this stuff? Because a lot of kids just don't listen to their parents sometimes. Like, the parent, and like, I don't think that parents usually, you try to say that they have the best intentions at heart, because really truly, I mean, if your parents love you, which most of them do, they just maybe don't know how to really show it. It just depends on what their story was themselves. But Dad gave his story to us, like, as in what his tumultuous past was, but he also gave the story of his own parents, so that way he could explain how he turned out the way he was.
Communicated their stories.
Yeah,
to
Mom told us the exact same thing, and we needed to know all of that.
At what once again, I guess just for the details, at what age?
Gosh, as early as I can remember.
Maybe like younger than 13, like. We
okay.
just
earlier, like we would get stories.
Well, like, you came back off the rigs when I was 13, so I got more of you then. So that's probably when the communication was the most constant. But it was always
communicated, because even when Dad or Mom was having a problem with their parents at the time, because only recently did Dad lose his mom, and only recently did Mom lose her dad. And so when either of them had problems, like, there was a period we didn't talk to her grandfather for like 6 years. But we weren't lost on that. Mom and Dad both communicated with us. This is why this is happening. Right or wrong, this is the way it's going
almost
down.
like when it comes to, sometimes you'll see the little thing where it's like, oh, this is for, like, adults. This is grown-up talk. They never did grown-up talk. They never did that with us. They always were like, no subject will get untouched. Like, sex, cannibalism, any politics, doesn't matter. Religion does not.
Only
none
out
of
of
it
curiosity,
is
though, because it's not like, in schools today, people are saying, oh, children should know about sex. It's like, whoa, they're not even thinking about that yet. Only when we inquired about, does Santa exist, we would ask them. They didn't project onto us their beliefs. They would wait for the question, and then, then they would answer to the best of their ability, or say, this is incomplete, we don't know, but we'll find out. So
I think that's a big part of it too. That we're gonna find out. Like, I was never afraid to say I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's, to me, it's like, I didn't promote Santa Claus because I was like, I'm not giving credit to some myth about the hard work and the honor that it goes into to get these presents and to celebrate this thing. I'm not pounding that off. I don't want you guys ruin it for anyone else, but this is our hard work. This is us demonstrating our love for you through this gift process, right? And So, they figured that out. I was always kind of like trying to mediate, where are you in your development as a human being? It's my responsibility as the guide, because that's all you are, meet you where you are. I will drag you into my world when the dictatorship of life demands it. Like if you got to move for a job or things like that, right? It's like, then it's like, okay, I'm going to have to give you an explanation. I'm sorry that I'm pulling rank. This is what's going on. These are the real world dynamics of the thing. And this is why we're doing it.
Right.
Right?
Like
But otherwise it's happening.
You have young kids, so it's like, hey, Dad, why is the sky blue? Those little questions.
Kids ask the greatest questions that I'm like, but I always find I'm more willing to trust somebody who says, I don't know. I actually don't know, but let's go find. Let's go find out.
Yeah, I'm about that. I like that too.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that because
I like
when you
that.
just act like you know everything, which there are guests on the podcast that if you ask them a question, they're going to give you an answer, and it's like, do you actually know though?
Yeah, it might be a confabulation.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, there's a lot of confabulation.
like I like the answer on Santa Claus, right? Because I always, with my oldest, I'm always curious because he's, like one of the things about kids is they are sharp and they are sponges and they're soaking up everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, what do you think? Right? I've asked that to my daughter too. What do you think? You think Santa Claus is this? And then you can see their brains start to spin on it, right? Because they're way more perceptive than even I give them credit.
That was the fun part of parenting in my mind. Like one of the things about having a clan that's still together, and the girls will continue to tell that story. But for me, I'm sitting back going like, parenting's easy. Like honestly, I look at people that are like, oh, but it was so hard. I'm like, you're lying to yourself. Like you're doing it wrong. Like something's going on here that you're misplacing a dynamic. Like the fatigue of kids that keep you up and the puking and the diapers and then okay, I get that. But that's like a phase.
Yeah, right.
Right?
If Mom was here, she'd be like, "Shut up."
Well, but I'm going to sit back and say no because she felt the same way. But there was also a partnership between us too.
Yeah.
Like the home fire stayed burning in the ethos, whether I was there or not because of rigging, it wouldn't change.
We were sitting around last night. So I'm coming off of. I keep saying this because I expected it to end after like 4 days. Then it was like 7 days. Then it was like 2 weeks. I'm just starting to feel like myself again. So we're sitting around the table last night. We just had supper, and the kids are all showing what they can do with their tongues, like the 4-leaf clover or all the different things. And it's funny because you have myself and my wife, and I can do all these crazy things with my tongue. And she just can't, it's very basic. And so the kids are trying to, and I'm like laughing. I'm like, this is what life is right here, this moment. You have those moments as a dad, I think, where you're sitting around and you're like, oh, here's one of those moments. This does not happen. Usually we got somebody crying and somebody yelling at each other. All three of them laughing, doing silly things. And everybody's just, I'm like, this is what life is right here. This moment is so perfect. It's beyond perfect, right? Like you don't need
got
to
to remember to breathe it in.
Yeah, you got to breathe it in.
Yeah. Well, playing into the intellectual dark web thing, we started on this whole trail is because Dad, when he came to COVID and such, with the vaccines and all that, we weren't
all
really
had our
awake.
different journeys.
We had our different journeys, and we weren't awake to what the bigger entity of the government's trying to kill us was. We had no clue, and it was kind of like our story was very much.
How forgive me, I don't like asking girls their age, but how old are you both right now?
I'm 23.
I'm 21.
21. Okay,
Yes.
so if I were you were like 16.
Yeah, around
ish,
that. Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
So high school.
Yep. Yeah. High
Right?
school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was COVID. It was high school.
Your
I had
guys'
an
graduation
online
pictures are in a
graduation.
park.
Yeah, because I had an online graduation.
Yeah.
It was on a screen, and then they were like, "Now throw up your caps." And I was
So just for my brain then, going into COVID, you weren't sitting there going, "I'm not getting this," or this is all fabricated and
No,
it's
Depends on who you ask.
It depends on who you ask in our family. So our brother was working for AHS at the time as a security guard. So he's a very, I don't like to be inconvenienced kind of individual. So it was the nurses and the staff that kept on asking him day in, day out, are you going to get your vaccine? Are you going to get it? And they kept nagging at him, and he hates that stuff. So he was going to get it out of just so they'd stop asking him. It wasn't even
Yeah.
There was no research. There
was a really guy
There wasn't
sense
even
of
a
logic.
fear
Yeah.
of
Yes.
there wasn't even a rationality of like, oh, there's a virus going around. I should probably cure myself. No, it was I want to cure myself of this headache. Like that's what it was. So he was gonna get it, right? And then for me and Maddie, like we were like quite young and we were doing online high school. So to me, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't go out anyways. Like I'm doing it online at home. Like, and I thought to myself, there's no bodies dropping in the streets. Like when I think of like pandemic, I'm thinking like legitimate pandemic. That might be unhealthy. Like, cause there's lots of things going on in the background that we don't see. Hence all the people who were dying from the vaccinations. Right. But like, when that happened, I was just going to do the standard, well, if mom and dad get it, I might get it. Like, because I was young, you're still the impressionable. You're kind of like, I don't know, like.
Well, even for the mask wearing, because I wasn't that, like, Sebastian luckily didn't get it because the lineup was too long. So he came home that night, told mom and dad that the lineup was that long. And it happened to be that mom had found on Michaela Peterson's podcast, she had Dr. Mercola, who had the COVID-19 book. And mom went, Mike, I think you should read this, like now. He did it in 24 hours. And that night, he went, Sebastian, before you take it, just read this. That's all I'm going to say. Read this, make an informed decision, be on your way. And so that's how both
and
Kyle
Sebastian knew, like based on dad's parenting and even mom's, less so mom, but dad, is that he's not really much to interfere like that. Like, so when he's more receptive than he is sort of like initiatory. So like if we came to him with a question, he'll give you an answer and he'll give his honest response, right? But then to Sebastian, from his perspective, when he was telling this, he was like, dad doesn't just like come up to me and say, here's a book, you should probably read it. I won't tell you what to do, but you might want to be informed. And Sebastian was like, okay, this actually, like, this is important then. Like, something's going on here. Yeah. And so then he read it and he was like, oh, fuck, I'm not getting that shit. Like,
yeah, but for me, I was immediately, I'm a bit of a hard ass, maybe from being his daughter, but I was
don't blame me for that.
Hey, but I was immediately like, nah, don't need it. Because when we were going through the whole COVID and the masking experience, mom, like most women, are susceptible to the peer pressure. You know, me and Macy were playing with not wearing our masks because we were doing all the research, listening to all these doctors, and we're going, well, then why the hell are we wearing the masks? I know we feel the pressure and the anxiety,
but it distinctly engraved in my brain of just the analogy. I think it was I'm forgetting the name of the doctor. Hopkins?
Roger Hodgkins.
Roger Hodgkinson?
Yeah,
yes.
Oh, yeah, Hodgkinson, not Hodgkinson.
Yeah, Hodgkinson.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Roger.
And I remember just the analogy of like the mosquito net and like the fence line, like a school fence line, and then like how like a mosquito can like kind of get through that. And they was talking about that analogy with like the spike protein in the mask, and it's just like, oh no, that's getting through. That's like trying to keep a mosquito out of a school link fence. It's like, nah, you're not keeping that out. It could just right through. So I was like, why are we wearing these masks then?
Yes, but mom didn't necessarily agree with us because, you know, me and Macy wouldn't wear our mask and we go shopping with her. And people would be saying something. We had people say, if you're not going to wear a mask, can you stand over there? And I'm, you know, at the time I'm like 18, 19. I'm like, you're looking at me like I'm a virus and I'm going to kill your grandma. Like, that's not comfortable.
That's because they were psyop to think
They were psyop. But so even in our own household, you know, mom still wore the masks when me and Macy didn't. And there was some argumentation because sometimes they would yell at mom for not getting her kids to follow the arrow, even though we're full grown adults. And I would just be, I'm sorry, mom, but I learned about all the science. What am I doing? Why am I following it? And so even with the vaccines, I mean, I was an immediate hard no. And I also had friends that I was trying to send the research to online. I had friends in Ontario from, you know, different youth groups and from my high school days. So I would be sending them research going, this is what I'm learning, maybe don't take it. And so I had other interests to continue doing the work outside of myself that maybe Macy didn't have as big of a friend group at the time. So, cause she was a bit younger, less. So all of us still had our differences amongst the COVID and then the vaccines. And then even how, cause that's one thing, we had our brother on our podcast recently, and I wanted to talk about echo chambers because you can make the assumption, even in the conservative movement or in the Alberta independence movement, in a family of 7, me and Macy have been accused of being the parrot of our father all the time. But they don't understand is that how things get played out. Like, sure, we have core values and we can agree now on the big picture. But if you ask, how should a country be, run and which policy would be better, those are the ways that life actually, goes about. You got to figure out how to demonstrate yourself. And that's where all of the nuance and idiosyncrasies come into being. And we disagree and we natter and interrupt one each other on that on a regular basis. We are definitely not an echo chamber. And even the independence movement, sure, everybody thinks it's an echo chamber because we all want separation. But you ask one person about, okay, what foreign policies would you do as an independent nation? Completely different from what I would do. I mean, even partners that you would go with for foreign agreements on manufacturing, we couldn't agree on that because some people think, China's not the person you should go with. And meanwhile, I'm like, well, they have the best engineers. We should actually get them for infrastructure. All of these debates happen and people don't think about that because they're so concerned with just agreeing on the minor things that they forget the golden bridges that you can build. And being in a family where
verbal jujitsu
is
like
our
we're
regular.
We're a gym.
Yeah, Dad said to me, and I remember this, and it just was engraved in my brain. There's only certain stuff that when you're a kid, like it just stuck out to you, and like so I'm kind of like glad that I can share this with some people that are like, my kids are driving me crazy or whatever. But I just felt like there was two things that felt like the most like to understanding. Actually, maybe three things. So the first one was that Dad said to me that it's like, I've only been a parent so long as you've been alive. And when he said that, my brain was like, oh, he's never done this before. So why do I have all these expectations of him, of like how he's supposed to be? And don't get me wrong, like you guys are supposed to be our guide. But the minute he said that to me, I was like, so it means that we're both learning how to do this together. Because I'm only ever like, we all start as children, right? And so like no one ever comes into this world not a child, right? But like when
nobody asked to be here.
But then he was like, I've never done this before. I'm new to this, so give me some grace. And it was like, oh shit. And then and then another thing that he said was, when anything goes wrong, the first thing that you should assume is that it was your fault, right? And I felt like, oh, that felt like more of a lift off the shoulders to kind of go like, oh, so if something's wrong, it might not be just the world's problem, because if it's the world's problem, that's a little bit harder to deal with, but if it's my problem, then I can do something about it. And that actually played into we were on like the Kathy Flett and Angela Tabak show when they were the ladies that you had on your podcast.
I listened to it.
Oh, okay. And like the thing that I was reiterating that I think still resonates because of just that past axiom that still just kind of always stayed with me was that I feel responsible for the environment that I'm around, for the surroundings that I'm in. I feel responsible for the culture because every decision I make, everywhere I place or don't place my attention is playing into the world that we're physically sitting in right now. And so that was something that, again, first person that you assume is anything wrong, it's probably you, right? But it means you can do something. And then I think the last thing that was also helpful was Dad said, he was like, so these are the three things. Yeah. And I know it's like super formulistic and not everybody's going to understand or want to follow this, but it's just my own experience. He was like, you have the right to make your case and state your argument and criticize me. And it's almost like in that show, the one with Will Smith and his actual son in the film,
The Pursuit of
Happiness, right? And he was just like, question everybody, buddy. He's like, including me. And so then he told us that. He's like, make sure you question me. And then he said, but I have the right to defend myself. And so he added that in there as in like, you can criticize me, but don't think that it's just, I'm going to take it with lying. You know what
you have over most people? So I've had, obviously I have an interesting seat in, what I've gone through in COVID and then talking to people and all these different things. And people always ask me, how did you get through it? And I always point back to the book club. And I should add Mel, but the book club was a safe place to walk into, an actual safe place. But it's that you have your right to think what you want, but don't think for a second the other guy isn't going to come at you with his own thoughts. Yeah. And what's healthy about that is then you can walk away and you're like, that's a good thought. Got to go think about that.
As iron sharpens iron, so
right.
Man sharpen man.
And most people don't have that. And certainly most people don't have that in their own house where they got a whole bunch of capable people that are walking around brandishing iron going, you want to go? All right,
Boy,
let's go down.
it's a formidable house.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
Daily
you know,
negotiation,
I'm hopelessly outnumbered all the time.
because one of the things I told Mel in the middle of COVID, you know, like if I'm not going to take what all these brilliant people are telling me and start using some of it, what the hell am I doing?
Damn straight.
I might as well just turn the podcast off and go work. There's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 job. Full stop, right? I made a good living in the oil field.
We're still doing that.
A lot of great people. But if you're gonna have all these people come in and take their ideas, because you're talking to brilliant people, and not put it into your life, what are you doing? And you know, and so then we started doing some of that. Now you can't implement every idea. That's you know, like that's a pretty difficult thing. But there is a lot of similarities, a lot of patterns of life that start coming through different things, and that is interesting. And I'm listening to you three, and I'm like, oh, what you have is what I have with the book club, except we meet once a week. You guys are in the same house, so you can have it every third meal or every second meal or every morning coffee.
Sure, we didn't anticipate it that way. Like
No, but that's the beauty of
our
it.
story, like the COVID story. That was a humbling experience for me. Like let's say this. There are several times in my life where I considered myself to be pretty savvy. Not maybe so much with the egocentric side of things, but I mean, given the background of my life and that I lived, some so it could be argued grace of God. Fair enough. We can have that conversation. Some of it due to shrewd behavior and things that an individual that leaves home at a very young age and gets a street life and then comes up from it to be able to have a clan and a family. So I honestly thought I had an idea of the world, and that my journey on the rigs and the sacrifices that my wife and I willingly knew, like, I'm going to go and do this thing. You're going to stand guard and watch over the clan. And then every time I come home, I'm going to interject whatever I can during that time. And then the COVID thing, I had to look at my family and be like, I'm so sorry. Like, I've got to take responsibility for this. I didn't see any of this coming. And so then the first thing is I had to humble myself and go, you're the strong man at the door. And I'm not one much for like dropping F-bombs, but if anyone's going to fuck with your family, they got to get through me. And the government went and messed with my family, and I didn't even know exactly how to defend them. So you want to talk about ripping the guts and chest out of a rigger? I've been a warrior on the iron. I've survived things. I've been halfway around the world doing this job. I thought I was doing right by my family, work hard, put them in a position to succeed, know about Connor McDavid before Connor McDavid knew about Connor McDavid. You know, like that's the world. You vote every 4 years, and then all of a sudden you realize that this situation happens. Your family got ostracized, but because of a medical decision. We used to love going to movies together. We used to like going to restaurants together. We used to do this stuff together, like the family thing that everybody's like so proud of us for being and having. And then when we decide we'd like to go and exercise it within our society, we literally got ostracized because we took the time to think. Like ultimately that's the consequence. So of course I had to apologize. I'm like, I didn't know where we were, and that's on me. And this world doesn't get to do that to me twice. And then that was it. When it came down to starting,
you realize that thought process is pretty much the idea for the Cornerstone Forum.
Yeah, actually, I do. I was at the first one.
I never, ever want to be
I was trying
caught.
to scout you out to find out if you were worth having for the injection of truth. Remember? Matthew
I do
Harris.
remember. Yep. Yeah. I gave you a ticket for that, if I remember correctly.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was important because I felt we needed Canadian voices for that. That's a little feather in the cap for anyone who doesn't know is my family helped play a role in both injections of truth. Obviously, credit due to all the people that did the thing because I love them. They are still avidly a part of our lives as a family. But that's a part of it, is like what happened in the downstream consequences of the realization that the map of my world was not what I thought it was. And then it was time to take a very sober look at it.
Yeah.
That led me to what is now like, the Lougheed crew and the men's group TBOF turns into TBA turns into UCP turns into APP. Like, pick a 3-letter acronym, and now it's the independence movement and Stay Free Alberta. Like, David Parker put out a legitimate challenge. So thank you, David. You and I don't agree on a lot of things, but when it comes to calling a man out, he did it. Stood up, made a statement about, okay, so you don't like what you're seeing in libraries and you don't like what you're seeing around the world. So are you on a board? You don't get to shame me that often in my life. I'll take it. I got a humble heart on that aspect. But once a person does that and they call you out and you know damn well you could do something about it. I was that guy. There was a meme when the whole COVID thing was starting to go around, and then they started running the mandates, and there was sort of that burly looking dude that looks like he was like a lumberjack. And he looked at the camera and he says, I was the guy that you were supposed to leave alone. You didn't. You're going to regret this for the rest of your existence. That still stands. You should have never messed with my family. We don't have that in men anymore. We have to get it back because that's what they did.
Well, only thing I would say, we do have it in men. We've just forgotten.
Not enough. How about that? I will agree with that statement.
We've been lulled to sleep.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hockey, way too much. I gave it up. Gave it up completely.
I found it again.
Yeah, I get it.
Just nothing crazy. I think of how much sports I used to watch. I didn't even. I watched, and only because of the MASH spiel, I watched one overtime quarter of NFL this year, of football in general. And I'm not saying I would have sat down every Sunday, but I learned this through COVID. If I hyper focus on one thing, I start to lose my mind.
Right.
And so a little bit of Connor McDavid or whoever, it doesn't matter. Team Canada losing there the other night or other morning, I guess. Just
today.
But it's funny.
Oh yeah, no judgments passed on my part.
No. But they lose, and my kids were upset. I'm like, it's just a hockey game, guys.
Yeah.
And actually, if I was Connor McDavid, I'd be really upset. If I was Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, on and on, I'd be really upset. But at the end of the day, it's a hockey game, and there are a lot of things way more important to me than. And I mean, it's a funny realization to just sit back because I used to be so emotional about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I don't think I told my kids, the more important thing, I'm coaching, helping coach my oldest right now, and I'm like, the more important thing's a U11 hockey game coming up. We went and won 6-1, and that felt pretty good. So and you're not wrong. I just with men, it's not gone. It's a little bit forgotten. And we can all find it because we all are finding it. Tons of men. Jordan Peterson, man, his arm. I really wanted him on the podcast. And then I interviewed Tammy for the second time, and his arm came on the podcast. So I'm like, okay, again, fair enough. All right. He's been on the podcast because his arm's been on it, right? I find that pretty cheeky. But regardless, I look at Jordan Peterson and what he's ignited in men, young men, men in general. That's been really interesting. You talk about your journey. The reason the podcast is sitting here is largely due to that man.
Yeah, incremental progress is a fantastic concept.
Yes.
And it's important because you don't realize how much you can lift at the end of it. It might be unfortunate about some of the personal avenues that have happened for him and his story. I don't have as much faith in the individual's demonstrations and some of the organizations plus downstream theosophy that floats behind his current position.
Yeah.
I would never not look that man in the eyes, give him a thank you, shake his hand, and be like, I totally appreciate the building block that was provided at a time that was very necessary.
But even his choices still influence me to this day, right? I watched him go to that's an interesting choice. And then I watched it play out. Oh, maybe that was a poor choice.
Yeah.
Right? And even his actions all the way up, love or hate all of them.
Yeah.
Still influenced me because I sit there and watch. That was a strange choice. That was so much of what he did, wrote about, stands for, and then watch where he goes in life. You're like, but you're not following some of your own principles. Some of the most brilliant men.
Right.
Nassim Taleb. Shout out to my brother Dustin. We read Nassim Taleb. Then Dustin, in the middle of COVID was explaining to Nassim on X how he wasn't following his own principles, and Nassim blocked him.
Oh, wow.
And said something along the lines of, you don't think I know what I already wrote about, blah, 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 blah. And then went on to go full on COVID hysteria.
That's
Yeah.
a left hemisphere acting
Right?
up.
And you're like, and we all sat there in the book club. We're like, this is wild. We literally read Nassim Taleb, then tried pointing out to Nassim, like, you're not going with your own principles, and you blocked him for it. Like,
Yeah, I
that's-
did Maps of Meaning twice, and I did all of his books a couple times. You know, the other ones were a little bit lighter reading compared to Maps of Meaning.
Yeah, 12
Like-
Rules for Life Beyond Order as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Beyond
thing
Chaos.
about worshiping one individual. It's like we appreciate Jordan Peterson, but even Jordan Peterson, when, you know, I just took two, leave me alone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so it's a good thing we don't look at one individual and then create you as our new idol or ideology.
Yeah, you can't idolize the man. Yes.
That's right.
He was just, for me, and probably for a lot of us, was very instrumental at a very important time to,
I concur with that. Yeah.
that it just took me from this and pushed me over there.
Well,
and
that's
off
what,
I
like,
went.
that's why we we mentioned you just like said left hemisphere, right? But like my brain kind of goes like, when it comes to learning anything from anyone that we dive into in the podcast realm, because we listen to it too, because we basically just like saw that he was walking his own talk, right? He was like, I'm sorry, but like he listens to like hours upon hours of podcasters and books, and I'm like, I can't keep up. Like, I feel like how you feel with Matthew, I feel with him. I'm like, I can't keep up. So he'll just be like spouting off something, and it was also just listening to how great of a communicator he was, and something about that was like, man, I wish I could be that. Like, there was something that was like, I wish that I had that knowledge. I could communicate it. I could try and explain things to the best of my ability as much as I can, and I'll update as I go. Like, it's just, that was something that we wanted to do. So when it comes to all of the knowledge that he's acquired, I'm like, oh shoot, I need to like play catch up, and I'm still playing catch up, and I will because I'm like this. But when he was talking about,
And you realize it's not a race, right?
No, I know, right?
Like one of the cool things about life is it's just not a race. Like, don't get me wrong, there's certain things you gotta go fast towards, but like when it comes to like gaining wisdom,
You're
finding
saying that
knowledge.
as a middle-aged man. Try to say that to a 17-year-old.
21 right now. But.
But I meant at the time when the journey for them started. Like,
but, you know, like,
we get to impart that little quid pro quo that you offer there. It's like, yes, we get to do that because we've already got that extra batch of life on us, where we've taken a few shots, won a few more battles, right? But when they're sitting back going, but they're exactly at the university age, that manipulating the I need to save the world syndrome that happens because of the right hemisphere finishing its development. Why do you think the universities are breeding zones for creating activists and radical mindsets? Because of what she just said. It's actually within the dynamic of how their brains are developing, and our oligarchical system knows this. That's why the British brought the education system into India at the time that they did. So they know that this is going to be a part of their journey. And they plan on harnessing it, manipulating it, and nudging it in a direction. That's why you get the divide of the okay boomer, right? It's like now you're and then the wedge comes in and they pry the youth away from their elders. Where the camaraderie of one another is how you find the solution.
on the flip side, I wish I could approach, because like the other thing is you as a young individual full of piss and vinegar and energy. And don't you wish you had that back? I mean, like all of us wish we could go back to almost right where you're sitting, because you have nothing but life ahead of you.
Give me 26, so that way my right hemisphere is finished.
No. I agree with you. I agree with you. But like, you know,
because
like,
I was a moron.
one of the things in order to do all of this, there was a Joe Rogan, Annie Jacobson interview. I didn't actually like the interview that much. She wrote the Project Paperclip. She's written a bunch of books since then.
Yeah,
but anyways,
no,
just for the audience.
Oh,
just for the
right,
audience,
right.
I assume a lot of them know it too, and I assume a lot of them read Project Paperclip, which was a very interesting book. But like the actual interview on Joe Rogan wasn't that good until she stumbled into Men Stuck in Quiet Desperation, and she got the quote wrong, and then Rogan clarified it for her. And then he went on this like 3-minute monologue that was just perfect for my stage of life. And my stage of life was, he was talking about you being stuck. You have a wife and you have kids and you have bills to pay and you're stuck in a job you don't like. I was like, check. And then she's like, oh, you can't get out of it? He's like, oh, no, you can get out of it. And then he walked me through in like 2 minutes exactly what I needed to do. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's doable. I mean, like it's not. And he points to 21 as being everybody at 21 should go. And I'm going to tell you it's not a race. But on the flip side, Rogan would basically say this is where you should push as hard as you absolutely can. And you should go do everything against what I just said. Because literally you have nothing but you have like all the things you want. You have none of the ties of like, I don't know, a marriage, kids, bills, a job you don't like, because you can just quit at the whim and go do what you want to do. And you do have the time and energy to do it. And so on one side, I agree with what I'm saying, but
where you want to put the time and energy.
Well, I understand why you
like
said
you
it.
have it, but you need to figure out, well, what's going to be your foresight, right? Like going forward, well,
that's why Jordan Peterson did interview Ian McGilchrist, who wrote The Master and His Emissary, and he liked the idea that McGilchrist brought up attention is a moral act, because putting your time is putting your attention into something. And the one thing, the disease that our generation really falls into is the cult of interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I learned about, it's funny because I had friends who would tell me all about the Titanic, and they would watch these 3-hour documentaries.
It's the Olympian or the Olympic or whatever.
Yeah, they would, all of these things. And at the time, I took it for granted. It's like there is something to be said about the Titanic going down and who was on it when it went down. But the point
But know that they weren't doing anything
They
with
weren't
it.
doing
They were
no,
just
they,
saying it.
It was just a cool
and we're like, what are you going to do about that?
It was a cool conspiracy. Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. But they don't, nothing that they can make palpable. And that's the one thing that we don't just look into anything. We're even, it sounds like we are, because we have, general knowledge about a lot of things, but we still pick that strategically. It's things that we believe can help people and things that can elevate their minds into another position. It's not something that's just a cool fact you can bring up at a party trick or say, oh great, I've killed the last 3 hours. Like, oh, I listened to a podcast while I did laundry. At least I can say I did something, and that's why the brain in our family is so vital, because it's a part of the learn about what you are to negotiate who you are. I mean, the school system has us literally from the time you are yay tall and then all the way, and then through high school, then into university. You're 18, 20, 21, 22. Your brain doesn't finish till we're like 25, 26.
And they have
so
you in the
they
system
have you
the
entire time that your brain is developing. So all of the skills and critical thinking you think you've garnered, and the decision making that, again, develops when you're 25, 26, they have co-opted every single part of it throughout the entire school system.
Yeah, and I did a presentation for Matthew's Rising Tide Foundation actually once when I was like, I don't know how old I was at that time. Maybe
Wasn't that long ago, a couple years
18,
back.
maybe? I might have been.
Possibly.
And that was terrifying, but I did it. And and it was a presentation entirely on what I was learning from the Master and His Emissary and what we knew from that time, because I was like, he started reading it and then he started talking about it. I'm like, whoa, this sounds like we've cracked a code to something. Because what it was is like, all human beings, they operate on some form of a model when it comes to thinking about the world. Even like me saying that is using a model, right? Or saying that it's like, oh, I don't use a model. You just kind of, or it's like in high school where it's like, well, I don't have a click. It's like, well, you just made one like that. Like your click is the non-clicks. Like you just did that, like, and you didn't even realize it, right? So, but the question was more like, what models kind of encompass other ones, like as in make room for other ones. And that was what we were finding with even some of the, I guess, kind of approaching questions like the transgender movement or the wokeism that's been happening, right? It's like a lot would argue that they're just not making room for another perspective, right? And it's like how I kind of use it with the analogy that was in Master and His Emissary and Ian's work was, there was this person who thought that they were on fire. Like they genuinely think that they're on fire. And if you're in a psych ward, and Sebastian and our brother worked with a bunch of AHS patients, so it's like there's some wacky people out there that think some very interesting things, and it's paranoia and it's damn near schizophrenic and all attributed to almost like a right hemispheric dysfunction. So you're over reliant on your left hemisphere. But these are behavioral things that really manifest in the world. And so when Maddie talks about like attention as a moral act, both of your hemispheres, it's almost like Gollum and Smeagol, where you have two different kinds of opinions and brains in your head. It's like two different perspectives. And it was one of his questions that he was trying to answer was, well, why is there two? Like, why do we even have our brain not as this one thing, and it's got a corpus callosum and it's split and there's two hemispheres? It's like, why do we have that? And so what he found was that there's like two ways that we kind of have to attend to the world simultaneously, and they damn near almost contradict each other. But one of them, the model thing, encompasses the other one better than the other one encompasses that one. There's a restriction, because with the patient being on fire example, it's like we're looking at that person who's saying, I'm on fire, right? We're like, no, you're not. But we're looking at them with with an entire functioning brain. So one part of them is split and one like not working, right hemisphere is not doing its job. So they think that there's this paranoia, there's this schizophrenia, there's this story that they've created where they genuinely think this. So that we would look at them and be like, that's not akin to reality, because we're seeing it though having more of an encompassment of their model, because we can acknowledge that that's how they're feeling, and we can acknowledge that that's genuinely happening for them. It's like, oh shit, this guy genuinely thinks he's on fire, and then we're seeing that, but he can't see the minute we come to say you're not on fire, because there isn't something there that it's almost like,
well, they don't have the other ping.
You can't encompass our model as well as we can encompass yours, so there is no ping there. And so when we were going down the kind of like the mode of attention and like attention as a moral act, it was when we learned the hemispheres, like, holy shit, like there's one part of us that we were mentioning before, like when someone gets stuck, right? And they just they think they're somewhere and they just won't give up. And then like you were mentioning the book that you guys read, and that person you were like, hey, but you're not even adhering to your own principles, and like instant block and instant just, that's basically the person on fire going like, no, I'm on fire. That's
left hemisphere lock.
And we call it left hemisphere lock because we were learning it and we were like, holy shit. Like, so when we were transpiring that into like the microcosm to the macrocosm of like kind of like oligarchical figures and Matthew's work, because Ian Gilchrist in his book, one of the things he says is, I want it so that people will take this work further than what I have put here. It's like, I want people to take it further. And we thought when we read Matthew's, we were like, this takes it further, because we were like, now we can understand with the brain and the psychology of the oligarchical figures, like what's going on that system. But then we also understood our own little mini oligarchs inside of ourselves. And we were like, well, I can just as easily kind of be like, no, talk to the hand, right? And be dismissive and just stay in my own little world of what it is that I think that I know, right? As much as anybody in this room. And then same thing, yeah, like with Dad or Maddie or you. And so we were like, holy shit, like, so not only is the oligarchs aware of the fact that our brains can do this thing, but then they manipulate it. And so then the minute we learned how they're doing that, we're like,
yeah,
okay.
they've built entire systems.
Yeah.
To actually, most human beings would have a very difficult time, and this is actually evidenced within his work. Like, never mind just the Master and His Emissary, which was a 2009 book. When you get to the conclusion and he writes it, he was predicting in 2009, just based on playing out the hemispheres. And if you have a higher left hemisphere proclivity culture, which we do, and is designed to be that, which it is, you end up with schizophrenic outcomes, which we have. And that was in 2009. He then decided that he was going to put out 2 massive volumes called A Matter of Things. And I'm in the midst of mulling that down. But it is the accumulation of tons of evidence that we have generated ever since the bad guys got into the physiology of social psychology, psychiatric drugs being introduced, the MK Ultra program. And he's showing you, because they used to sever the corpus callosum to stop epileptic seizures. So what they found from some of that information is that you, like an individual, a human being, every single one of us, because God gave you that wonderful piece of meat between your ears, okay? But when you sever the corpus callosum, you have 2 very, very individually distinct personalities. So if I was to take you and put you under transcranial magnetic stimulation, and I, by frequency and magnetic pulsing, can shut down one hemisphere, and I put a camera and I record Shaun Newman under a right hemisphere proclivity of thinking, then we change it up when we run the stimulus to be the left hemisphere thinking, and then Shaun, with both online, gets to look at both those videos, you'd be like, that's either of those aren't me. And you would be correct and incorrect at the same time. Because no, that's constantly what's happening inside you. So there's two questions. For the religious, why did God design it that way? So please don't dismiss how important your brain is and that you don't even get to interpret your journey of faith without that wonderful thing that he put between your ears. You're also presuming too much with one of the hemispheres about the model, because the left hemisphere will hang on to literature over reality, which is why you get the, well, God said it, I believe it, that settles it, people that anchor in on their faith so diligently about a book and the literature in the book that they go to syllogistic thinking, A equals B equals C equals D, and they become so heavenly minded they're no earthly good.
I know, Macy,
or the other way around. You're going to get
Macy
yourself
right now
so
is
earthly
looking
minded.
for
You're
the-
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's just, well, I don't, I will, are we okay to keep going on this
No,
topic?
it's a good thing to pull
Yes.
up a literal example, because what Dad's talking about,
Yeah, I think
it
little
seems like an
examples are good.
abstract idea
It's
until you
not.
look at the study.
Yeah, there's evidence.
And
Yeah,
Lots of
there-
it.
That's why, like, the most thing, like, when we talked about this with people is when we start telling them the examples, like, of just the patients and what you, like, you're like, what? And so there was this one, this is in the Matter with Things example, and I hope I have the whole thing here. I might not, but it just said that, like, it says, take the following example of a syllogism with a false premise. So this was a patient that was being done, and the doctor was giving these false premises, and they was just seeing what was going on inside of their brain. I think that it will tell you what, as I keep reading, which hemisphere was being magnetized, I guess.
Transcranial magnetic
Yeah.
stimulation.
yeah,
So it says, major premise, all monkeys climb trees. Minor premise, the porcupine is a monkey. Implied conclusion, the porcupine climbs trees. So then this person says, well, does it? As Deglin and Kinsburn demonstrated, each hemisphere has its own way of approaching this question. At the outset of their experiment, when the intact individual is asked, like, so intact, both are working, okay, does the porcupine climb trees? She replies, using, of course, both hemispheres, it does not climb. The porcupine runs on the ground. It's prickly. It's not a monkey. Annoyingly, Gilchrist is a brilliant author, so he actually he puts in nuance. So he said, annoyingly, there is in fact porcupines that do climb trees, but it seems that the Russian subjects and their investigators were unaware of this, and therefore, for the purposes of the experiment, it must be assumed that porcupines are not arboreal.
Arboreal.
During experimental temporary hemisphere inactivations, the left hemisphere of the very same individual, same lady, with the right hemisphere inactivated, so they're relying more on their left hemisphere, replies that the conclusion is true. The porcupine climbs trees since it is a monkey. When the experimenter asks, but is the porcupine a monkey? She replies that she knows it is not. When the syllogism is presented again, however, she is a little nonplussed, but it replies in the affirmative since that's what is written on the card. Like, as in she says, well, that's what's written on the card. When the right hemisphere of the same individual with the left hemisphere inactivated is asked if the syllogism is true, she replied, I have it, like, taken off, but I remember it because I've read it so many times, but she basically replied, she's like, the porcupine doesn't climb trees. It's not a monkey.
yeah,
Like,
but it's not a monkey.
It's not a monkey.
And
like,
it's
and
funny
so-
because us looking at that, I mean, we can all look at, after doing the research, we can, from a bird's eye view, go like, oh, it's obvious. And even with your book example, the author, like, well, clearly you're not following your own rules. Clearly there's some contradictions. This doesn't make sense.
Your right hemisphere recognized the pattern instantly.
Yeah.
That's actually its job.
Its job is to notice and recognize patterns and put it together. This
Well, based on
In context.
based on lived experience, though.
Based
right?
off of
Yes.
lived
So, like,
experience.
why are we reading this to you, kind of thing? It's like, when it's talking about the subject and it's just relying on the left hemisphere, it's saying that, well, if it's written on the card that a porcupine's a monkey, then clearly it's a monkey.
The paper
right?
said so, and therefore it is true, because
Yeah.
it relies on physical. Its job. That's why most people nowadays are right-handed, because the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body. So its job is to deal with tools. That's why it's more precise for the most part. And so it will look at that piece of paper. It'll look at that book, and that book is more real than the author. The thing that it said on the piece of paper, well, the porcupine has to be a monkey because it says so on paper. The left hemisphere trusts inanimate objects because it's something it can hold, use, manipulate. But it doesn't actually acknowledge even its own body. There were patients when you shut down the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere does not acknowledge the entire left half of the body. Some people would even say, some of the patients were like, no, there's a big wood plank here, but there's a body here.
They would describe
but
it
the other
with
side
machinery.
An
as a-
inanimate object, something dead, non-living.
Yeah,
Dead,
it's
not
a
living.
machine, but this side's real. The left hemisphere literally does not acknowledge half of
You know what
existence.
you're telling me? I got to read this book. Right? Because that's very, very, very curious.
Well, our mom...
Go through life without using your brain.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
can't. You can't.
But from where I sit, one of the things I like about Chuck Prodnick is he talks about recognize the patterns of life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I
you
loved his bullets and beans speech at the first Cornerstone. And then when he encouraged people to go out and lift heavy things and do things that shoot things that go pew pew. So now I sit back and I go, okay, I took that challenge on there, Chuck. Now I got a few I'd like to one day when I meet you face to face offer you to maybe. So because you got some blind spots, brother.
He's got tickets to Cornerstone this
Yeah,
year.
I'm looking forward to it.
I know people wanted Chuck back, and I'd talk to Chuck. Sorry, on a side note, because people.
Yeah, no, Chuck's awesome.
One of the things is I don't put these things out in a social media platform. So every once in a while, I got to squeak them out to the people who.
Yeah.
Me and Chuck had talked lots about him coming back to speak this year, and I'm not saying Chuck will never be back on, because I have a ton of respect for Chuck and Jamie and all the military guys.
Yep.
So I think there is a day when there probably there will be I would say there's a way in the future which that are both there, or one of them's there. But for this year, I had a really interesting idea I wanted to run with, so we're going to find out if it works or not. And that just, there's only so many spots you can fill for speakers. But yes.
So that's on a side note from the brain response that
Yes.
you wanted to.
Well, the thing is with the brain, the thing about interviewing people is you start to see patterns.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yep.
And that's interesting.
I've been listening to a lot of your programs. I've spent more time with you in my ear than I've ever been in yours.
Yeah, well, that's, you know how odd that is for me? Like,
It's like having like a stalker.
No, I don't think of it.
I can actually recognize personality traits then in you and how you demonstrate yourself, and I can conduct myself in that way with you almost as a stranger. So I'm almost being rude and overly familiar with you,
Right?
right?
true.
Because
Right,
I've
that's
had
true.
this
I hope we're not being
friendship
too rude.
with your mind and your guest's mind for hundreds of hours, but I've only been able to shake your hand about 4 or 5 times. Like, I'm very thankful for all the interactions that I have. But the thing is like, I could look and see a brother, someone that I love. I would promote the show. If you wanted like my body to help protect you and your family, I
wanted
already
us to
have.
clean up
I
the
already,
studio.
Right. Like, I've already got that. But the thing is that you don't have that context.
Yeah.
You don't have that
We have
context
to
of this
keep that in
family.
mind to not be overly familiar. 'Cause
Yeah.
It is
Oh,
kind of rude.
absolutely.
It's presumptuous.
It's not
We
rude.
did it. We did it even.
Well, I
with
mean, you put yourself out there though, so
Yeah.
it's like I was gonna say, hold on, guys.
gotta
Like
take the
he's not.
responsibility, yeah.
He put himself out there to be recognized.
I don't put the word. I guess the word that comes to mind isn't rude. I don't think any of it's rude, but it is strange. I sit and I have different people, lovely human beings come up and they start talking. You're like, huh? They're really strange, right? Because you forget how much squeaks out over the course of hundreds of hours,
Yeah.
right? I've always wondered why, if you listen to Rogan a lot, and maybe I guess maybe
I did a tons, not as much these days.
Does he ever squeak out about his kids and his wife?
A little here and there,
But very little.
very
Yeah.
little.
Like, we're talking like minute.
Yes.
I don't.
You mean
it's-
like Charlie Kirk's kids? Eric
Yeah.
Kirk's kids?
Yeah.
Are we starting to go down that theory?
Well,
That's a Dave Collum conversation.
Well, the thing about it is that I find fascinating about that is I'm like, I don't try and blast my kids' faces everywhere. I think that's a dangerous thing
Right.
too, like the opposite way. But it is such a part of my life.
I can find them.
It bleeds.
You know
out.
that, right?
Yes.
Like online, like you've had pictures of your life.
Well, it bleeds out.
Right.
No matter how hard, it's like trying to hold.
Yeah.
If I put
the more solar systems, the tighter your grip, the more solar systems slip through your fingers.
Yes.
That's for you, Tom.
I think if I were to cup a water or fluid
Yeah.
and then try and try,
Yes.
it just was. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So as much as I don't want to talk about my kids and my wife, it's such a huge part of my life.
Right.
It just oozes out.
You don't
Right?
say.
Right. Exactly right. So like when I think about Rogan, what I find very interesting is you don't know a whole lot about anything about his personal life. It is there if you listen, but such
Yeah.
small quantities where like, I don't know, man. I don't know how to live that life.
Right.
This is just who I am. Right? I don't try and be one thing on the podcast and then go be something different. That doesn't make any
That type
sense
of
to me.
consistency is really important. I found that was one of the oddest dynamics about the rigs for working with. Like, I know one day maybe you'll run a blue collar with riggers, and when that
No,
one's-
we
I'll-
are.
I'll happily.
No, and I've already
if
been thinking about
if
this.
you don't mind.
In the studio, I was telling Tuz this literally.
Yeah,
well,
should be
once-
here.
Here,
Should have the boys
and
here.
and I actually think it should be you, Chris Scott, and Tuz, all three guys who used to work the rigs, but have gone on to do way different things now.
Yes,
Yeah, I had to
Totally,
reinvent
totally.
myself entirely, and that was a 2-year journey. That one, so that's a story for that time
Right,
because
well,
you had to recreate yourself.
I'm hitting the
There was no
gong
way.
and putting the challenge out. Tuz and Chris Scott and yourself. We'll make that happen. I think that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd drive back up for that. And I mean, like, and I guess like this is a part where like, so I apologize and said over familiarity because like, this isn't the first time I came to Lloyd because I came to that first one you offered the ticket and
Yeah.
I came up because like one of the passions for me personally, like the wheelhouse where I have taken the knowledge, I have integrated it, and I now take it very personally, is the downstream consequences of the jabs, the quantity of death that we still have, the lack of conversation that is now it's like it didn't just get pigeonholed. It's damn near being
It's
obfuscated.
not being talked about.
I'm still up to date in that world. I still pay attention to the papers and the studies and the doctors. So coming up here to meet you for the first time, like that was a passion project for me. And this is going to get to the comment about the consistency of on the camera, off the camera,
Sure.
on the rig, off the rig. I was the same man. That's important. That's who you are. Lots of guys. I met hundreds of men that how they were on the rig, and then I would meet their significant others and their children for whatever reasons. Like, because I actually really did like to try to create dinner opportunities.
Sure.
It was easier in Canada than my boys in the iron down in the United States, obviously. But the thing is that they would be a different guy in how they would conduct themselves. And I'd be like, why are you dishonoring yourself and your wife? And they'd be like, what, dishonoring? I'm like, I just don't get it. Like, the man that I'm working with, you maybe you're not as effective as a communicator on with the missus as you could be and you should be, because the fella that I'm dealing with on the drill floor, you yell at me when I do you a wrong, which is fair enough. You can call me out on that aspect. Some guys will turtle with a hard hat head to head and be like, you churfed your duty under your 12 hours as far as they're concerned, but they didn't understand the details of what went on in the shift for them to be upset at you. But how you conduct yourself, this is your demonstration. Your word and your demonstration is all you have. And it became more valuable to me in the 2020 after era, because of course I have my fallibilities. I'm not talking about self-righteousness. I'm talking about consistency of demonstration. Even if it's, we just jokingly say on the rigs, do something, even if it's wrong, but do bloody something. Because not acting is not an option. There's 2 cans in the oil patch. If you can't do it, you can't stay. So you have to be this person. So if you can have that within your heart and soul as a person that's on the iron, you should be able to bring that home with your family. And that's what I saw when I met you for the first time on a face-to-face, was the individual that I did catch on camera seemed very honest and sincere about how they were trying to navigate this world. And you're Canadian. And the very first injection of truth.ca, which for those who have not watched that, go back and do so. Because there is context here. And this story hasn't ended. And that consistency is what prompted why I was like, yeah, I want Shaun Newman to be the host of the thing. Daryl Comic wanted to be able to work with some of the politicians because you remember we had a certain amount that were involved because we're trying to appeal to our government. We're murdering our fellow citizens through policy and PSYOP. We have oodles amounts of people that are never going to have children, and they don't even realize that this has happened to them. Okay? And we haven't even gotten to that yet. We're 5 years in on an experimental phase of this injection into their lives. We're still dying at a 15 to 18% rate on average of excess death. The doctors being baffled is still a wonderful statement that floats around out there. It's like, this isn't over. We've still got people, and that's the consistency of them is like, we can't let this go. Even with the whole independent. In fact, that's one of the motivating things for a great number of people in the independence movement. I know it's not everybody, and I understand that. But this is a big part of it, and it's that demonstration. That's what I love about you. That's what the people who met you when you got involved and you got to, like, you have all sorts of relationships and ties now into that world that, you know, we help bring to you, and you were happy to play a role in, you know. It's like, that's a part of the community side of things. And trying to demonstrate ourselves with some consistency and not forget the fallen. Like, never mind just our veterans. What about all the people that took that damn jab? The quantity, we haven't even begun. The stuff that I'm still seeing for research with the hyper-accelerated, you know, going from 0 to stage 4 cancers, like this, it's not over. And this has to be solved and figured out, or at least talked about. Face the monster.
Yeah, I think the monster aspect of it, because like I was eyeballing Dad's book that he brought here as well, because there was a quote that he wanted to share, and I hope he does by I don't know how long we're going for, but like by the time we reach a point in this podcast to do that thing.
The bladders. By the time the bladders can handle.
No, there's no bladders that are not working yet.
What if I gotta go pee?
Go outside. But the monster aspect, I think, was and is such a huge part of the independence, because like I actually think we should touch on this, because it's like, oh, so we talked about our origin story and how we're getting into the podcasting, and like the whole point for us as well as you is culture mainly, like that's how we see it, and also education, and the biggest thing is community. Like when we first were starting, before we even turned on the cameras, is community. And when Maddie was talking, you were saying like, oh, UCP Rising Stars, and Maddie instantly goes like, no, it was the community that made me cry, because we didn't care about the label of like, oh wow, you're a UCP Rising Star. Like we didn't. Yeah, we never.
And you shouldn't. But it's still a nice tip of the cap.
But it was
what your father just said is a nice tip of the cap. I don't know what to do with that. That makes that's almost. I feel odd with that, right? Like that's a very nice tip of the cap, because you've already overpaid me. You realize that, right? I gave you a ticket because I can't remember how it went. I'm like, oh, I'll just give you.
I couldn't afford it. Just straight up, Shaun. Like, I'm not a rigger anymore.
No, I just
the girls literally have a stub stack. Buy me a matcha. Like they're hoping people are willing to invest in them, and I would like to encourage that.
It's better for you than coffee. That's why we do that.
As you've noticed, I enjoy my coffee. Still. I've kicked so many trying to kick so many habits. Not that I have many, but you know. Coffee's one and I know I'm going to get texts on coffee. I just enjoy a good coffee in the morning. Regardless, you've paid me back more than like I don't know. To me, you really wanted to come to the show. I'm like, oh, the only thing standing in your way is a ticket. Well, let's just get that out of the way. Because I mean, like, I don't know the ripple effects of that one little choice and what it could do for the world. So when you talk about culture, it's like, I sit here and I go like, what? I'm trying so hard to catch up on everything, like I say don't race. And part of the race is I just don't burn out. Now you're in a different, you're in a different position than me. It's like some days I row, a mile. Other days I just stay in the same spot. And sometimes I actually go back a couple, but I'm like, as long as I don't get out of the boat and I just keep rowing, I'm going to get to the other side. When we bike Canada, Dustin was very, very, very wise. In that he, I'm like, we're never getting across this country. 40 kilometers on the first day. Everybody's sore. I'm annoyed. And he's like, John, just going to get on the pedals tomorrow. We're going to bike a little more. And we're just going to, eventually we're going to be across province. And two. And that's the way I look at pretty much the journey of the podcast. As I'm like, I'm just trying to learn a few things, right? And you go, how long are we going? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about everybody else sitting here, but I'm enjoying the conversation.
I'm
like,
happy.
like, it's I don't know what it is about this room, but like when you have a full round table,
It's you, Shaun. It's all you.
I disagree with that.
Stop.
I've done little here. I helped. You guys are the ones that put it. Yeah, we should do this. I've just sat back and let you guys go. Like, to me, this has been very interesting. But if I don't talk about Alberta independence before you walk out of here, I'll be very annoyed because I was asking you about it on the drive out, and then I'm like, nope, let's wait. We're a ways in, and we haven't even really we've touched the surface of it, and then we backed off.
Yeah.
But I am kind of curious about the book too and the quote. So you tell me where.
So how about this? This will play in near the end if you're willing to give us the time, and then
near the end would be
I'll read it and share it because but it plays into the context. It's independence.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then.
But by all means, like everyone's got their own version of how to get, what we're doing in this.
Okay,
scenario.
well, I can start then tying it to the community thing, because the reason I brought up the Maddie's point on the AGM thing and the UCB Rising Star thing was less so, like, we can get into the whole conversation of, like, labels and how we just don't care for them, but it's more so when me and Maddie almost cried when we got that award because of just not knowing our community did that, like, for us. So we were, like, it was a surprise altogether. So
when you're
I was
busy digging the trench, like,
yeah, like I
we're
was getting ready to
holes.
debate at the AGM.
Yeah,
like
and
that's
I'm
what I
trying to
was
help her
freaking
get
out
ready for the
about was
debate.
just because they were like, there's youth debates, and I'm like, I want to participate in like genuine good thinking, and present a different, like, I don't know, point of view. And
Well,
so
we're always
I didn't
behind
win,
in our
but like,
like we're also always behind, so we're always playing catch up. So that moment at the table with your kids, taking a moment to go, this is it.
yeah,
I mean, we
that
don't
felt
do
like
that.
That felt like that.
Because people say you guys are young and you're amazing and all this jazz, and then me and Macy go, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Because in our brains we're like, we still have so much work to do, and there's so much people that still need our help. We have friends that are injured from the jabs. We have friends that are injured from all of the puberty blockers. That's also a thing out there. There's so much stakes in the games. We're like, we got to keep going. So moments like those, we definitely.
It was like time to like pause and like see the community that's like lifting you up. And I asked the UCP if I could get the letters that came in as like what people wrote down, so I could thank them individually. I still haven't gotten that yet. I will. I'm like, I need to keep talking to them because I really wanted to thank those people. And like Mom was like, yeah, I got everyone, and they wrote down like. Some people did essays. I'm like, wow, that's so nice. But it was the same feeling that me and Maddie also felt when we got invited to speak at the We Unify conference, like way back in 2023, like when we were first starting to dip our toes into like, I don't know, speaking on behalf of youth, but it wasn't really like feeling like we were doing that. It was just, we're young and people are like, wow. And we're like, okay, that's like how it feels. And so our entire community rallied behind us to get us to BC because we couldn't afford it. So they were like, well, we'll help you out. And so they literally like gave us physical money in hand, said, here you go. And I was like, it just made me cry.
If that's my camera,
made me cry.
men's
and
group,
I thought to
you.
myself, tying it back to the community thing, is me and Maddie were just recently had a show on our podcast with Serena and Sebastian. I forget their last names. And they're two young people that I saw at the Big Four rally for independence. And I knew her from school, from CGS when we went to
the
an
Calgary
all-girls
Girls
school.
Charter School. If you want to talk about feminism and the push for that, we
But-
got it down the throat.
Yeah, we did. But we saw them there, and then we were like, we want to have you on our show. And the thing that really surprised me was Sebastian, this younger guy who's like 26 or something. He feels the exact way that we felt 5 years ago during COVID when you couldn't find anyone to talk to, and then the minute you did, you're like, wow, like I actually have someone that relates to me. And he's feeling that now because he didn't know anything about the freedom movements that we've joined. And like, so that's where we do not take those for granted, right? Because he didn't know about any of them. He still doesn't really know about them. And so he's been alone thinking all of these things for such a long time. And he's feeling it now with the Alberta independence movement, though. And so something's like happened, and it's the exact same thing that happened with COVID, which is people were losing their jobs because of their opinions and, you know, misinformation and whatever it's happening now because of Alberta independence. The guy, Max, who does the freedomcalendar.net, lost his job because of Alberta independence. I'm like, man, are we still doing this? Like, Like,
The answer
you would
is
think,
yes.
you would like, we thought back in 2020, oh, it's 2020, we're still doing, it's 2026, we're still doing this.
Yeah.
And so relating it back to like why it's important for us, like the Alberta independence push per se, exactly, is because of the fact that there's still ostracization that's going on. Carney's still introducing bills that are just meant for censoring people, right? And so when people think that an MOU, like, oh, a pipeline's going to solve your issues, it's like we're still overtaxed because of, again, a climate agenda that was absolute bullshit, and now they're backpedaling on it so to potentially, as Doomsbird said, unstick our oil for whatever
What's the point of
nefarious
having
means.
a pipeline if you still don't get the income from it?
Yeah, and also like. And also the fact that you can't even have conversations in your own country.
No.
Like, and you're losing your job still about you're a traitor to Canada because you're trying to just do a democratic process of just going through a referendum. Like, as you were saying, this whole theme of like, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? That's kind of what the Alberta independence movement is. It's like, yeah, we're sprinting for our petition and then our referendum and then, right? But the whole process of what it's going to look like, it's the first time in like Alberta's history, our voice is actually going to matter. Like, our voice actually matters in terms of where our future goes. And I think that that's where I'm like, whoa, guys, like, that's pretty important, because we can't, like, we shouldn't be neglecting what's been happening. It's almost like this should have never have been a problem. Like, the vaccine should have never have been a problem, because now getting back to, like, even Dad's book that he wants to address, and Maddie can get into her reasons for independence as well, though, is that monster. It's like there's something bigger here that not a lot of people are acknowledging, because like as we were talking about in the car, now people are asking questions of like, oh, well, why can't we stay because of this specific treaty, because of this specific Constitution Act, the Clarity Act. They're getting into the logistics of why we can't leave, or why can't we stay, or why can't we do Senate reform. And now Danielle Smith's coming out with all of these different questions about oh, well, do we want to fix immigration? Do we want to have elected judges? Which also, by the way, she never put elected in the question. And if these are people in an AGM that write down policies and they get really nitty gritty, and there's little political freaks that are like, well, it has to be worded this way so that way it's clear. I'm like, you didn't put elected judges in that question. You put selected by the province. So I'm like, that's not elected. And I'm like, that wasn't a mistake. I'm just saying. I'm like, these are people that they get so caught on semantics because it's a political party. I'm like, that's a side note. I'm not okay with that. But anyways, I'm just like,
But you obviously notice.
Yes, I know.
When you pick a team in politics,
mm-hmm.
you become the team,
mm-hmm.
and therefore you cannot criticize the team.
That's
and
not
if you,
That's
true.
not true.
And if you do, then you get ostracized for
Mm-hmm.
criticizing said team. So when
Yeah.
you say it's 2026, we can't ostracize people for doing a democratic process. I'm like, this is what we do as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
You right? Like, if you
You
I mean,
don't have to.
you don't
You're
have
right.
to.
This is what we do, but you don't have to.
But the bigger monster is like what happened with COVID. It's like they're killing us on purpose, guys. They only just recently, Eva Chipiak said, justice delayed is justice denied, right? Justin Trudeau got to walk away after all of this happened. They admit to the mandates, not even the vaccine, just the mandates being illegal.
Well, the Emergencies Act.
The Emergencies Act being illegal. And I'm like, why are you not all in jail? Like, do you know how many people you fucking killed because of these mandates? Our suicide rates went through the roof.
Through the
like,
roof.
She does more F-bombs than I do.
Sorry.
So let me throw a question at you three,
Okay.
because I'm curious of something, and I'm probably going to pull us off where we're heading.
No, you put a quarter in, you got to let it play.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. I like that.
I mean, you did literally.
That's a lot more than a quarter. But
Yeah, oh yes.
So I'll give you. I'll sing for you. You know.
All these speaking events that are going on, and all the different things that are being said online, and everything else, really focuses a lot on how much money you'll have if we leave.
Yeah.
Economics.
Mm-hmm.
This is the importance of it. This will give you all a future. It's gonna,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to more money in my pocket. Gee, that sounds awfully nice.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the monster not being talked about
Yes.
isn't just COVID.
No. Yes.
It's like
Who gave us that?
it's the
Yes.
it's the DEI. It's the men can be boys can be girls.
Yeah.
I don't know, just like all the things that the monster's doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to me, like that's, I don't know. I guess at the core of me, more money, less money. Well, sure, I want more, but like I want the insanity to stop. I don't know how to put it in a better wording than that. Maybe the three of you can pull apart what I just said.
No, that makes sense because it's the standard people. If you're too busy trying to meet your survival basic needs, you're not thinking about the environment. You're not thinking about your neighbor. You're thinking about how do I get my next meal? And so when you are surrounded by ideologies, and this is another reason why I'm so adamant about people learning the brain, is because even all of the distractions that you mentioned, you have the school distractions and then the ideologies being pushed by teachers. Then you go home, and in your downtime, what do we do? We scroll, and they do ads that are tailored to our minds, so we get these dopamine hits. What does the left hemisphere run off of? Dopamine. It's primary chemical. So they are literally breeding a left hemisphere society via what we scroll. The medication we take also induces dopamine, and it gets rid of oxytocin, which is how we also connect more with physical people, hug one another more. And so when it comes to all of the insanity, and it's funny you use the word insanity because you look at schizophrenic patients, they look insane. And which hemisphere is that? It's the left hemisphere. And so if people understood that we are susceptible to what's on our phones, we are susceptible to the things they put in our food, we are susceptible to the things they tell our children. And because then we have to, like on the rigs, we have to undo everything that they taught us. So if we understood that a bit more, because it's so hard, especially with like this independence thing. It was really funny how many people thought that if Pierre Poilievre gets in, Canada is saved, Alberta is saved, and we don't need to do independence. I'm like, what planet do you live on? Because when have we ever had a federal say? When? From the start of Alberta, the vote didn't matter. And just because you have a conservative federal person in doesn't mean... There's Stephen Harper. Why didn't the Alberta agenda go through? Corey Morgan talks about it in his book. Why has every Alberta independence thing failed thus far? We've had conservative federal people in, and it still hasn't worked. And so I'm all about community and local. And this Alberta independence movement, even on Doonberg, was funny because it's really important to look at the threats and the global foreign interference. Knowing Operation Gladio, our movement could definitely get infiltrated. I'm sure there are hungry politicians, both in Canada and the US, looking at Alberta's resources for collateral for their banks and all their ledgers. But we're on the ground. We're looking at physical people going to Yuma, going to Ontario. Me and Macy have talked to a bunch of different youth that are on board, but they're not willing to say so because they're in university and they're trying to get a degree to have a job and then put aside the DEI that comes with their degree that they didn't pay for, that they are now going to debt for. But all of the hate and ostracization, they're like, I can't do it. So I'm with you, but I'm just going to keep on.
I'm going to be quietly with you.
I'm going to be quietly with you. And I can't get mad at them because, hey, I get it. Though if we're in that state, there is nothing the federal government is going to do. Even on the provincial level, even our city council in Calgary has been corrupt for so long. When you learn about things like Kickley and then the federal climate partner program that has been implemented since the 90s to put all the sustainable development goals into our municipalities. They have over 500 of our municipalities that don't even know they signed on to that program because it's free. Meanwhile, when you look, it's like back to Landman when he's like, I'm sorry, all these windmills, do you know how much oil it took to put up there? Climate agenda is not free, and all of these things, it costs money to be clean, and it's not even that clean when you look into it. But the point being, and this big rant is just because the more... it's that prayer that I have on my wall that I stole from Mom. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. What Macy alluded to earlier was when the world is so broken and there's so much you don't control, go inwards. That's what I can control. I can learn about my brain. And if I learn about my brain, I learn a little bit more about your brain and then her brain. And then I can, when you get a bit left locked or Macy's a little bit neurotic, I can handle you better. And then that translates to my community. So now maybe Alberta is a little bit against China more than I would advise them to be. That's okay. I know the brain. I don't have to get mad at you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to yell at the young people that are scared in their left hemisphere state because they've been berated. I'm just going to, I know your brain now. I can help you walk through it, I can walk myself through your anger. And so that's the Alberta independence to me, is that micro. I learned about myself and the brain so I could better manage the things outside of myself. The Alberta independence movement is us trying to manage our little tiny brain so we can better manage the world around it, and there's a lot around us. That's my micro to macro. That makes sense to me, and that's manageable, because anything else, gosh,
There's more of the world than you.
there's more of the world than us, and it's hard enough as it is to get a local grasp on getting a local vote. A referendum in our province is difficult to get, let alone trying to change your whole country and then get the Senate removed and reformed. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try and do something that's tangible, palpable, and that's in my backyard. So I'm gonna start digging here and in here.
Yeah, they've both just communicated something that was a part of the story, and that's why we're here. There's nothing impractical about what happened. Like, we went to a march way back when in Calgary over the how the municipal government was handling things, and that was the first time we looked around and went, look at all these people. Like, there was thousands. No, the media never said nothing about that. I know, because I was the fool that turned on the television first when this all started happening. I mean, thank God, I was already in critical thinking mode because of the IDW on a few topics, right? Because everybody from Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Majid Nawaz, Michael Shermer, Michael Mouse, I read all their work. There isn't one book that didn't get pumped into this brain during that process. But in spite of all that knowledge, nobody cares about what you know till they know about how much you care. Well, then all of a sudden I'm looking around and there's all these people, they don't know exactly what to do. But they know they got to do something. Even if it's wrong, do something. That's when I realized the marches aren't for change. The marches are so we find each other. That's what they're for.
It was cool when the convoy left Lloyd. I'd never, ever... This sounds really stupid, but it doesn't, because I'm sitting here talking to you three, and you can tell me why my brain positions it this way. You can all remember, or lots of you can remember in COVID, I'm the outspoken guy by having all these people on. But in my brain, I've never outed myself. I've never gone to a protest. The physical part of like showing up. Oh yeah, sure, I've had people on this thing on the airwaves, but there's no like physical interaction. And going to the Lloyd Husky while all the trucks are getting ready and like physically being present.
That's right.
And seeing my neighbors be there and being like, oh, kind of a nod. Well, hello.
Why do you think they wanted isolation and social distancing?
Right. And I should say, like, obviously, like, there, for the kids' sake was a group formed in Lloyd, a community group. And we met, in secret, because if you got found out, so we met in lots of interesting places. So it wasn't like the first time I'd ever publicly outed myself, but it was always done under a veil of a bit of secrecy, like, yeah, we're meeting, but we can't disclose the location till this time. Those are different. I can't believe I'm even saying it like that. Like, these are the stories you talk about in I don't know, different countries where the government's out for them. Not that I have to explain that.
Because the government's out for you.
Right. But going out in the sunlight, in the sun of day, and watching people leave to go protest the government, and everyone being like, oh, but whoa, you're here too? The little wave? Okay. That's a very... powerful experience that more people should experience.
We were out on the side of a highway because we couldn't go to do the thing because there was just too many financial obligations that wouldn't allow for their clan or a section of us to go be a part of the truckers thing. But we made sure we got out. We were out in the middle of nowhere, just made sure we drove out so we could watch it go by.
And we cheered them on, yeah.
Cried and cheered them.
Yeah.
I'm still
my legs were so tired that day. We jumped up and down
That day.
crazy, and we just couldn't stop.
I couldn't do stairs the following 3 days just from jumping. My calves were soiled.
But it was also cold, right? It's like, but the thing is, it's like...
It was also minus 30.
Yeah.
Well, so here's one for you. You want to know why we're going to win this?
Why?
When I first came to Alberta, I hitchhiked here to chase the woman that's now my wife. One of the things I saw all over bumper stickers was Alberta Works. I did 17 years on the iron. Busted my body, busted my mind, busted everything for those paychecks. That helped. I'm downstream of those consequences with my family right now. I know there's thousands of us out there. Do you want to know what those same people have done They're rolling up their sleeves. They're going to Yuma. They've gone to Ontario.
Right. Oh my gosh.
I've seen more of these sidelined individuals that have just gone out. A bunch of them became canvassers so that they could get the 15 names of the people that they immediately knew, and that's as far as they're going to go. And you know it.
Did I tell you the story about Glenn? I think it's Glenn. Glenn, if you're listening, somebody find me Glenn. Yeah, I think he's Marwayne. Like, he's actually relatively close. I hosted, I was emceed or what have you. Mitch is talking Lloyd, I don't know, 2 weeks ago now. And a guy asked a question or was going to ask a question right at the end, but then it was a statement about Mitch. And I was going, oh boy, this could get a little Western. But it wasn't. It was his story about how Mitch told him he didn't just have to be a snowflake. He could become part of the storm, right? Don't have to just be this one individual snowflake. He could become part of the storm. He took his one signature that he was only going to do, became a canvasser, and at the time of talking to him, had 70. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's like a really beautiful story, right? Some people look at 70 and go, 70, that's not going to get you to 177,000. I laugh. I'm like, he was only going to do one. And we aren't even through the process.
That's right.
And he's already at 70.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just one guy, deciding I'm going to sit at this location and I'm going to start talking to people and see what happens.
The work ethic of Albertans is tied into this process.
His thought, his partially what I was thinking, but it like solidified it. Everywhere I go, if I don't know somebody and they're asking me how things are going, I'm going to ask them about the petition and just see what their thoughts are. Not to try to convince them, just to see if they know about it. And see where it goes. Yeah. And I was telling you guys on the way out, in the middle of COVID, I was the guy who, as outspoken as I was, out in society, I didn't want to have the fight everywhere I went. Now I'm like, if we don't embrace a bit of that, we will get more of the same.
That's a guarantee. I mean, that's also a part of the strategy if you consider it. I mean, what our true opponent is, it's not necessarily, yes, it's within the borders of Alberta, but I mean, the monster that lays not just in Ottawa, that can also travel out to the city of London or even to your intelligence agencies, and the types of tactics that are being run on us, like that's what we're up against. And the funny thing is that this thing, it didn't stop. It didn't stop for the whole process of everything we've gone through. Like, we've been sitting around together, and we have context. We have context with you, everything to do with the different programs and events. We're on boards. Like, we were non-existent in this realm, and all this knowledge and all this conversation and what we've been learning and sharing and talking about. This is all downstream from an agenda that got put forward by groups of individuals that have placed their intentions and their mode of attention on the world that I didn't know they existed, but they do. And now I'm directly downstream of the consequences of their decision making, be it corruption, be it using compromat, be it policy, be it even a little bit of stupidity, some malevolence, all of which these things too are highly proficient of the left hemisphere. Okay, so we're still downstream of human beings doing human being things. Okay, so that means that we need to make a decision. We got to understand where we are. We need to know who this enemy is. This is why you have the guests. This is why we read the books. This is why, I had 194 channels on Rumble alone that I follow and sift through. That's just Rumble. That's not my YouTube. That's not the Twitter feed.
Good luck keeping up to that.
Right?
I'm not.
No. But the thing is that the reason why that obsession came is because a physical reality came into my world. Like, there's corpses in my life now. I'm never going to see those people again. Estranged or not. Doesn't matter. And I know why it happened. I've done the research. I've done the follow-up. I know these doctors. We should have them on our shows again. Where's the update in your world? How are things going? Let's remind people. There's a whole bunch of people that are in this journey right now, even for independence, that are downstream of the thing, but there's a whole bunch that aren't. But there's a bunch of them, they're sick. Like, there's people with bad circulation and they don't know why. There's people with microclotting, they don't know why. Those long sinewy things from Hirschman and John O'Looney's, that's there. We've got family members in that world. They'll never come out and they'll never openly talk about it.
You're reminding me of a very good thing. And that is, I haven't had, I think of like Peter McCullough. It's probably been a year, if not longer. And I can't
drag our Canadians back into the fray.
I can't can't speak for all other independent media. I just got tired of like screaming from the in my own opinion, screaming from the rooftops and nobody listening. I mean, I know people are listening. That sounds stupid.
That's like, and I get it.
You know, like
I get it.
It's trying to. When I first started, and I don't know about your three journey, but like, you know, I was like, oh, we just got to fix politics, right? Like the changes can be made in politics, right? And so you probably watched Shaun take a hard left turn right smack into something I'd never had be in. And that was politics. I was talking, you know, met Daniel Smith and a whole bunch of others, I might add, and ran right into that. And then watched them all go into government. And has there been great things come out of it? Yes, there has. But overall, you're sitting here going, if you stared at the Confederation and how it's made up for longer than, I'll give it an hour. I'll say an hour. After an hour and a couple of conversations with yourself, you're like, this doesn't make sense the way it's set up.
Actually, it's working exactly the way it's intended.
Correct. As an Albertan, though, you go, we're getting the raw end of the stick. Although I might say the same thing about Saskatchewan and BC and a whole bunch of other places. And you just start looking at it. And the more you look at it, you're like, that's strange. Why don't we talk about this? Why aren't we hitting this directly head on? And then you usually run into, you know, like, why does Pierre Poilievre have to say certain things out east? Well, he's got to talk to the Easterners. Like, so the Easterners are so much different than us that they think men can be women, like, immediately. That's something we think, all of us. We just all lost our collective minds all at the same time. We're gonna like just collectively encourage losing our minds more. Like, that's what we're gonna do. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, right.
And so like then you start I go back to, it was a Dennis Modry conversation I had where I asked him to give me the argument of Canada first versus Alberta first. And man, that is a tough thing to sit and stew on. I don't want to be Alberta first. I want to be Canada first. I want to believe in what I was brought up in this wonderful country. And yet, the harder I look, the more I just see like, crap. Like this sucks, right? Well, it doesn't suck because lots of wonderful people. But, you know, like, I want to be kumbaya and watch Connor McDavid and
yeah, I get it.
And all those things. But when you start to unplug and start to stare at the problems we're in and the reality of it, you're like, it comes back to, we have to, you're going to try and reset the system or at least do something to shock. It's like, well, that puts it to where Alberta sits right now, I think. Because I think a whole host of people have gotten to the same conclusion that a lot of other people had for a very long time, all at the same time, roughly.
Yeah, I think that's where it's like, well, what is Canada? It's like you said to yourself, it's like, I want to be proud of this great country. It's like, what's so great about it? Like, what made it great? And it's like, the people are great. Like, I love Albertans for sure. They're my favorite. But like the Canadians are great. Like,
well, I got people listen.
The trucker convoy to me felt like the most like, if I actually had felt like a Canadian patriotism. I'd never felt it before until then, because like when you're in school, they're like, well, our culture is maple syrup and hockey
and mooses and beavers. Yes,
it's the 100%. Same thing. Like,
yes, it is. And it's funny. So like people who are listening to this all across Canada, right? Love you, human beings. I'm sitting in Ottawa. As much as Tooze likes to call it fucking Quebec, right? Fucking Quebec showed up at 2 a.m. the first night I was there, rolled in with all their semis and parked on the same bloody stretch of road, pavement, and sat there the entire time. And we can't forget that. The problem we got is Quebec's got, it's coming back to communities. You got to fight for your communities. If we all fight for our communities, we all get a better deal.
Absolutely.
And if we don't, then it's like, well, it's not so bad. Pierre's fight is like, no, take a look at this.
No.
Let's sit for a second.
Danielle ain't saving us either.
No politician is.
That's right.
No politician can save us.
That's the reality. You know, there's this. You have privy councils. You have lieutenant governor generals. You have financial institutions. We're the highest money laundering country in the world with all 5 major banks in Canada. Like we're going to be doing an interview hopefully at some point with Alex Craner on this particular topic because he's been doing some phenomenal research with regards to that recently. That machine and the way it thinks, how it operates, it has no intentions of stopping. Like even regardless of how we go with our responsibility, the quantity of people, we have the highest citizen engagement. I believe it was even parroted a little bit by the three guests that you had, David Parker, Moen, and Prodnick, right? That podcast where you had the, like, we have more people engaged, paying attention. We have AGM records that we've set. We've set municipal records in Calgary for engagements over the blanket rezoning. So all of this popping up, everyone needs to watch Ottawa stuff us, because that's what they're going to do. And they're going to do it because we already have a history book that has shown us what this institution is, how they think about us, and what they intend on doing. The Privy Council's already said they're not letting this fly. We don't need their damn permission.
Yeah, the one thing we were listening to,
I agree.
Corey Morgan and a couple others, just PG the Belt, Albertans recording Albertans. And the thing is about the negotiations that are about to happen, like Macy alluded to, no matter what the promise is, the answer is supposed to be no. You're obligated by the Clarity Act to go into negotiations, but no matter what they offer, because we already know there's not going to be a constitutional reform. They're not going to get rid of the Senate. The equalization referendum that we did when we had 63 plus Albertans were like, yeah, let's go. Why did that go anywhere? What makes any of the 9 referendum questions that are going on this ballot any different? Because the game and the people in Ottawa don't want to give us that. Even if Kenny had brought that to the table, which he didn't, it's not, they're going to give us a sliver, and maybe they'll give us a piece of cake. And our job as Albertans is to not fall for it, is to go whatever they think they're promising us. That's the one thing I loved about Peter McCaffrey's speech when he did at the Courage to Listen town hall for when we were talking about sovereignty initially. He said, even if we became like Quebec, they gave us the same immigration handling and then maybe a bit more on the resources, maybe or more control over our pension like they have. He's like, even if we did that as Albertans, we still wouldn't be equal. We'd have everything Quebec has, but we still wouldn't be equal. And one thing Macy says is like, okay, people say, I'm just signing this petition. I just want the referendum so we can get, a better deal. I want to be equal. It's like, what does that actually mean? What does a better deal mean? Do you want to just get a little bit above scraping by, or do you want to thrive? And the thing about, it's funny because we were talking about H2S earlier, and if you want to thrive, if you're on a crashing plane, you put on your own gas mask first. The thing with H2S that Dad taught us is that you can't just go save the man. If he falls from H2S exposure, he's got 3 minutes, so there's rush. But if you just go in, you're gonna fall.
No, then you're dead. You're both
dead. Then you're both
I've
brain
done this
dead.
in real life. Like it's not just a drill. Like I drilled for it, but I played the game.
But this is
and I got
Alberta's
that
story.
guy out, and I did it right.
But he put on his gear first, and he put on a critical mind. We have to put Alberta in a position, and Ottawa can't grant us that because they never have. Only we can give us that sovereignty. And so we have to say no to whatever good promises they potentially give us and just declare independence. If we get the referendum, our job next is to get every Albertan to put as much input as they can so we can do that Alberta Constitutional Convention. We build our Albertan Constitution and we go for it. And then it doesn't matter how negotiations go. We can't wait on that. We are done waiting. We've been waiting too long. Speaking of that race that I shouldn't be racing for. But that book and the speech that Dad is going to allude to is the thing, because that's from 70-75, and that's Henry
just because,
Patrick.
yeah, and I guess just because I point out race, I guess I think of a race as frantic.
Yes.
Whereas walking with purpose, you can be walking and it's a run.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
If we know where we're going, you can call it a race. You can
Yeah.
go whatever you want. I mean, there's lots of different ways to get to a different end point. It's just you have to know where you're going. And when I think of like, I guess, and maybe it's the way my brain thinks of it, it's just like a race. All of a sudden, everything, and I'm
Right.
like, no, I want more purpose in
Yeah.
that, because when you have purpose and you're going somewhere, you're in control of it. It's
Yes.
like we don't have to ask permission. It's like I agree. It's like at what point can you just say no? Well, but if you went through COVID, at some point you had this little experience. where somebody said, could you, sorry, could you, no. No, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And you got to see their reaction to that. Just a simple word, no. No, I'm not. No. They could yell at you. They could be like, oh, okay, and walk away. There's a lot of different ways they can react.
Yeah, they can call the cops. A lot of people did that too.
And in Ottawa, if you say no, I can imagine I have some good ideas where that could lead us. But, if enough people say no.
All right. So on that note, where can it lead us and what possibly? So there's 2 quotes that actually.
Sure. What's the book, Mike?
So no, this is the book. This is a gift that the girls got me. I've gone over all the constitutional letters of Congress, and I've gone over like the speeches of different presidents.
Okay.
And Matthew Ehret's work is like, we don't need to go down the context of like, because we already know that he always relates like the American Revolution, the Civil War to what's been going on.
This was in 1775. Okay, so there's going to be lots of people that know this, but the reason why I want to give context by reading this, and thank you for the permission to be able to do this, is we have to understand our fellow human beings have been here before. They're facing the exact same thing then as we are facing now. We share the echo. It's not exactly the same.
Yeah, but it rhymes.
But the system and the institution that is implementing their agenda, their process. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy fact. They do this thing. I know. I sit on boards. They plan for things. They plan for elections. They plan events. That's conspiring for an outcome, good or for evil. That gets to be decided by those who interpret history. So we're there. The one thing we can't do is deceive ourselves about this. Socrates, I believe in the Cratylus dialogue, says there's no greater deception than self-deception because the deceiver is always home. That's you. So, bearing that in mind, no man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism as well as abilities of the very worthy gentlemen who have just addressed the House. But different men often see the same subject in different lights, and, therefore, I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as I do, opinions of a character very opposite to theirs, I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. And in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense? I should consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and an act of disloyalty towards the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all things. Mr. President, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusion of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are gilded, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years to justify those hopes of which gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves and the House. Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with these warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. I ask, gentlemen, sir, what means this marital array, if its purpose be not to force us to submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of navies and armies? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us these chains which the British ministry has been forging for so long. And what have we to oppose them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer upon the subject? Nothing. We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable, but it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to entreaty and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not already been exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves. Sir, we have done everything that could be done to avert the storm which is now coming in. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the throne, and have implored its impositions to arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry and parliament. Our petitions have been slighted. Our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult. Our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain after these things may we indulge the found hope of peace and reconciliation. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve, inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have so long contended, we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, and which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contest shall be obtained. We must fight. I repeat it, sir, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left us. They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be next week or next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed? And when a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on our backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope until our enemies shall have bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak if we make a proper use of those means which God of nature hath placed in our power. 3 millions of people armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country as that which we will possess, are invincible by any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? Was it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. These are individuals that are the direct consequence of the system that has forged Canada. They had, as a response to get to that place, they were called radicals, they were called traitors. That sounds like a reasonable man that tried to do everything within their means of power, of persuasion, politics, procedure. They tried to extend the hand. Do you know what people like Lord Alfred Milner and many of the others that are still rolling around in the the Laurentian elite today, they still feel the same way. And this is a quote from Lord Alfred Milner. It's way shorter than what I just read. Way shorter. But the thing is, it says, as between the three possibilities of the future, because this is about independence. 1, closer imperial union. 2, union with the U.S. And 3, independence. I believe that definitely number 2 is the real danger. This is about the Canadians coming into a relationship with the United States. I do not think the Canadians themselves are aware of it. They're wonderfully immature in political reflection on the big issues and hardly realize how powerful the influences are. On the other hand, I see little danger to ultimate imperial unity in Canadian, quotes, nationalism. On the contrary, I think the very same sentiment makes a great many, especially of the younger Canadians, vigorously and even bumptiously assertive of their independence, proud and boastful of the greatness and the future of their country, and so forth. We would lend themselves, tactfully handled, to an enthusiastic acceptance of imperial unity on the basis of partner states. This tendency is, therefore, in my opinion, rather to be encouraged, not only as a safeguard against Americanization, but as actually making, in the long run, for a union of all the Britons. They only gave us Canada and Canada nationalism because they didn't want us drawn to the American system of economy and the inspiration of what the Declaration of Independence and the Letters of Congress and the Bill of Rights. We've been played for fools since Canada's inception. And if we're not willing to look at this monster and know that that's what's coming. So even with the independence movement, with all that, and this is bipartisan because I love people. I break down my block for the people that have the NDP sign on their lawn just as I would for anybody else. They have children. I care about them too. They walk their dogs. I see it all the time. They're good people. I know they are. So this is not about NDP. This ain't about liberal. This isn't about these stupid lines of divide and conquer that we keep getting placed. But we've been here before as a people. And if we don't look over and remember our forefathers that did this thing, these are human beings. They weren't Americans yet. They were us. They were Albertans.
Well,
I don't know what else to say.
And even after that speech, and after they won the war, why the Civil War happened. So even if Alberta
The War of 1812.
Even if Alberta gets its independence, they're not going to leave us alone.
That's right.
So we have to stay vigilant.
Matthew's where shows that 5 eyes, and then it, like what happened with the Patriot Act and all that, and then they just kept on going, and it became the American Anglo Empire. It's like America.
So what you're saying is choose your hard.
Say again?
Choose your hard.
I loved it when Mitch said, I need time from you. I filled it in more going, before I need blood. Time, that's all we've been doing. My family has been, like, if you don't mind to say so to those who are sensitive, we've been balls out ever since this happened. Whether it's being on boards, going to events, driving to do these types of whatever it takes. This is a labor of love and absolute desperation. We have backup plans. We'll leave if we have to too. But the fact, I don't want to. I want to stand beside my fellow Albertans, and they come from all the walks of life. This has nothing to do with these stupid political parties. The only reason why that even gets to play is because of the brains, like our brain. Like that's the only reason why that tactic even works.
Yeah, but choose your heart. I guess I come back to that, like forgive me, who says it, folks? I can't remember. What they're talking about is, you can, I think it's Jocko, actually. Could be wrong on that. And regardless, he's talking about, get up in the morning, go lift something heavy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard. But it's hard? is being same age and now your body's starting to fall apart
Right.
and things aren't going. That's hard too. Choose your heart. And you look at Alberta independence and you go, yeah, they're never going to leave us alone. But they're never going to leave us alone the other way too. It's choose your heart. Which way do you want to go?
Right.
Right.
Right? Like, I mean,
And a reverse correlation, the value of the single individual within the nation of Alberta has way more influence, a more powerful vote. You matter more in ways you could possibly. Now, I believe that just because of humanity. But let's actually look at some of the ergonomics of a nation. And if we're going to be a 4.7 million person, your vote just like it got exponentially
more important.
As an
I agree.
independent Alberta than any role that we've played within Canada since 1905 or even sooner for that matter.
Well, yeah, I mean, even that speech, right? It's like that you just read. It's like if he didn't have his voice, then what would have happened? Like, if you don't have the ability to actually like say what you want to say, then the battle of ideas is completely lost because you can't share your idea.
So spoiler alert, which is funny. Cornerstone Forum, the positive roundtable this year is roughly on that idea. In order to envision a better future, we have to have discussion. We have to have debate. We have to have our voice.
Yes.
Because if you lose that, you lose the ability to envision a better, brighter future. And I think that's a very powerful thought. But then you have to go put it into action. You have to have the discussions.
Yeah.
You got to go talk to people.
That's why I love your forum for that reason, because you intentionally set up the debates, and that's perfect, because that's the thinking, the real critical thinking that they don't do in universities. That's it. That's what real university is, looking at really smart people talk about really complex things.
Well, it was actually a small little tidbit. I won't go on too long because I know we've been going for a long time, but it was I was reading Benjamin Franklin's autobiography because I was like, he's just Matthew basically like prompted him up. I'm like, I'll read him. So then I was reading him, and he like started at a very young age to try and create the kind of cultural shift that needed to happen in people's minds that led up to the American Revolution, right? And so how he started though was he just consumed like a lot of information that was available at his time. So he read Socrates and he read a bunch of different philosophers, mathematicians, probably people that came downstream of Kepler, just like all of these great minds. And then what he formed was this thing called the Juno Club. And what it was, and it sounds kind of hilarious because
your book club.
It's kind of like your book club. He formed the Juno Club because what it was young men that were basically sitting around a table having a discussion, and they were forced to either maybe write essays about what they were like learning and read them and report back and have the discussion. And if you read the autobiography, he had his little like rules of order of how you would conduct yourself, right? Basically you can't be like, haha, told you so. Like there was none of that. It was more so just let's talk about stuff and let's try and actually really think it through. There is no stupid questions kind of thing, right? And then what happened was there were the gentlemen in this group, they got so empowered by just what was going on and being discussed in the Juno Club that they were like, can we create our own clubs? So then they branched off, but the HQ was the original Juno, and Ben and them decided that they weren't going to tell anybody about once these other gentlemen went to go form up their groups, they didn't know that it came from this original source. And so it sounds a little Freemasonic, right? Because it's like, this is the idea of conspiracy. They were conspiring in some sense because all these different little branches and clubs were coming up with ideas. And these people had, like, Benjamin had friends that were governors, and he was getting around the community, kind of like in the way you are, like you knew your community, right? And so then he low-key kind of flexes, but he flexes on like creating damn near the first like firehouse of Philadelphia, like firefighting, right? Because of just, again, ideas spreading, trying to problem solve, and they're like, what can we physically do? And then later on it came to becoming he made a neighborhood watch, right? And so then he created that, and then slowly but surely, as it was trickling, he became he became to be in government, and then that's what led to him being able to write down some of the draft formats of what would later be the, I think, Declaration of Independence. So it's just all of that came though from just educate yourself, invite some friends to talk about it and debate and discuss, and then you have no idea how much that can like just trickle down. And but guess what? Reverse correlate. That's what the oligarchs figured out how to do too. right? And that's hence why it's brains, because it's just like
It's brains.
what ideas we're fomenting and festering. It's like, because you can use that to connect, but you can also use it to manipulate, and that's within every single person. And so that's why we emphasize the brain as well as the addition to the community, and why it's like we're our greatest fucking strength and also greatest weakness.
Right.
In the same breath.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
This has been a lot of fun.
It's an honor.
Been a lot of fun. Everybody keeps saying it's gone too long. I'm like, believe me, I do this for a living. It hasn't gone too long. Because if I'm still sitting here at 2.5 hours in going, 2.5 hours? Yeah, well, yeah. Time flies when you're having fun, folks. Oh. I would argue that I feel like people are going to enjoy this.
I have a question. It's something that we do on our book club. We have an online book club. And because we read The Master and His Emissary, and at the end of it, I always do a sustained attention act. And sustained attention is a way to literally build memory, and it invites more right hemisphere, because right hemisphere is memory, context.
It can hold context over time.
Yeah, real life. From this whole podcast, what was like something you still don't understand, or something you would like to look into further, and then one of your favorite things or the biggest thing that stuck out to you?
You're asking me.
Yes. If
Well,
you don't
interesting.
Yeah, we're flipping the script.
We're podcasters that are now interviewing you. Let's go.
Everything you said about the brain, I want to learn about. You talked about the book. I'm like sitting here going, I don't even know if you've mentioned the book. You have mentioned the book like several times, but I've already forgotten it. And I'm like, I'm going to write it down. So that is what stuck out to me about this conversation. Like for my own, like, I want to be better. Now, an overarching thing, what your dad just read, I'm like, man, if that doesn't motivate you to get off the couch, I don't know what will.
Good. I hope it gets clipped. No, seriously, like to anybody that watches your show, I don't think you get all upset about propriety and stuff.
No, actually, I've been thinking about that lots. If you're a techie person and you want to clip the entirety of my show at any point of it, you just go and put it out there. I mean, the CBC does it.
Tools.
So, like, we might as well
they do it to frame their agenda.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're enjoying this show, you have my full permission to go clip it and put it out and carry on.
Did you ever know about the 1775 address of Patrick Henry to the Congress in the Virginia church?
I'd be lying if I sat here and said yes.
No, that's fine. That's important. Those are our people.
You have like different realizations along the way, and Jordan Peterson was the first person, and you just said it beautifully, that they weren't Americans yet. Mm-hmm. But Jordan Peterson was the guy that positioned the thought that 50 years ago, there was somebody similar to Shaun just sitting there trying to figure out the world. And they had roughly the same problems that I got. They got, they were living roughly in, certainly did they have this technology? No, okay, fair enough. But like, they were still a human being, and it's not like all of a sudden we evolved in 50 years and we're so much smarter. What
do you think the Socratic dialogues are?
Right.
Podcasts.
Yeah.
Right.
Of their era. That was their entertainment.
Yes.
I just read all of Plato.
Like, so I agree. Right? But I mean, but the initial thought wasn't getting to that, because I feel like that's
just giving an example of the brain through time.
Right. And so like, when I sit here, I don't know, you're asking, okay, wait, what were all your questions? Just, I want to make sure that I answer them all.
Do it.
He answered like 2 of them already,
Yes, he
actually.
did.
Yes, I said one thing that still confuses you.
Well, I want to understand more about the brain.
Yeah.
I think you all three, you very much reiterated that. Carry on.
Second one was, well, you answered the brain. What something you want to take from this podcast, or something you are taking from this podcast? And then
I think he answered all of them.
Yeah,
because he said his favorite was the address.
The third was like the thing that really stuck out to you from this podcast. So
well, but okay, so that's one on.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, keep going.
No, and I was just gonna say, like, the reason why I think, as a bit older of a guy, but not like
Dude, I turned 50.
I know, and you know what? And there's lovely 60 and 70-year-olds that listen to this podcast, and heck, I'll probably get a text from an 80-year-old. What I'm realizing is once we're all there, we're all going to still think we're young, and you are young. And as the 89-year-old woman told me sitting in your chair, Macy, like, why do you keep saying 89 like it's an old thing? I feel really good. Oh. Fair enough. So the cool thing, though, for you two ladies, and I think the reason why so many of us are like, it's interesting what you're doing, is in the course of now over 1,000 podcasts, I've ran into, I can probably count them on my two hands. I'm going to say under 10, and you're not a teenager anymore, but certainly you're a young adult. There's not the youth movement is growing. But most of us, I think we're probably right around my age where all of a sudden you have kids and bills to pay and you start staring at things, you're like, something doesn't add up here. And some never follow it further than that.
True.
Right.
And to see young people getting engaged and talking about things, I think I could probably clip out 50 things from the podcast of you two going back and forth and saying things, because you had both at times as lovely of thoughts as your father did at the end. And I think it's super cool to have all three of you here and talking like that. I don't know. Like, to me, I really enjoyed it. That's why we're still going at 2.5 hours.
And I mean, we're under no delusions. Lots of people like clamoring towards them because of the very dynamic that you just offered. Like, me in the room is like kind of like a secret weapon as far as what my mind and my research can be. But these are the face and the future. Like, I got one job left.
Yeah, we
jack them up above drowning and hold them there as long as possible so that the bastards back east don't get them. Like, that's it. What other job do I have? That's my final call as the guy on the wall. And then that's what they'll have to figure out when they start their families. They got to be able to look at the legacy and go, this is to be fought for.
This is why it's funny, and just like circling back from the very beginning of it as well, is like Dad's ability to update himself made it so that he could update his children, right? And so the children are meant to, how it goes is update the parents, right? And so I feel like by me and Maddie, I mean, like, yeah, we're young, and I'm glad that we're starting this early. I'm glad that we get to be some form of inspiration. Something that I actually was going to say was I wish that more youth would go physically out and meet their community, because when you see older people come up to you and like say that they're so hopeful for the future, like I've lost like sleep crying over that, because my brain takes that really personally. I'm like, oh man, like I don't want to let these people down, because if you say, oh, you're the future, I'm like, I know, like I have to build it, like, oh my God, I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? So I'm like, no, like that's like, I take it very seriously, and I wish that more youth had that, because then like when we met Serena and Sebastian, they just felt like, oh man, like so isolated. I'm like, when we were sitting down in a pub together, they were like, oh, not only do I feel like I can talk about anything, but I feel like anyone who comes up to like squammer at me, it's like, these are my people and they got my back. I'm like, that's what we are trying to accomplish here. And they didn't know about the older groups. And like, I think that that's something that's really, I want to encourage on the, like, I guess the Q-tips kind of thing, is like when I see the older generation, I see them getting out their notebooks and they're writing stuff down. Like, I think like I want to be that when I'm older. Like, I don't want to like they think, oh, well, I'm just a gray hair, and like, and I'm like, don't dismiss, like, you actually, it's funny, we fuel you, you fuel us. Like, that's how I see it, is I'm like, when I see the older generation is still in this, and I see 80-year-olds still doing this, they could choose to opt out if they wanted to. What do they owe?
They've earned it.
They've earned it, the right to opt out, but they're like, no, I'm going to listen to a 2.5 hour Shaun Newman podcast, and like, I'm going to take away something from it. I'm going to have more conversations, and like, that's the incremental part. And when they do that, I'm like, that's the whole point. Like, I love that.
Yeah,
it fuels me, the young person.
It does.
Like,
they
let alone me
they're
fueling
fighting
you.
for us, and yet I am also like we're doing it for them. We're also doing, again, the podcast. We wanted our dad on screen because we believed in our dad. We believe in the older generations because they're the ones. That's the older generation in that book right there. Yes. They're the one. We're only here doing whatever we are, this magical thing, because of people like you and people like that and all the other people that are fighting for us. And so we're just doing the bare minimum to say thank you. That's it. It's just an appreciation. So what they think they're doing for us, we know we're doing we're reciprocating, basically. And because there's no other way to do it. That's what a family is. It's like, we're not blood related, but we're human beings. We both got a brain, which makes us the same in more ways than we can count. So,
well, thank you for making the trip here, and continue doing what you're doing. I'm sure our paths will cross, no doubtably, again.
Whether you like it or not, huh?
Yeah.
But appreciate you guys coming and doing it in studio. And wow, I'll be curious to hear what the audience has to say when they finish this up.
Yeah, it won't be as much views as the Craner Longo show, but
You just never know.
a little bit.
You just never know.
Oh yeah, it's not about
don't
that.
care.
Yeah, I say that with jest and playfulness.
Yeah, well, it's funny though. The most every once in a while, there's a podcast that, as good as Tom and Alex are, the feedback on the text line is insane.
Oh, okay.
Insane. I'm curious what the text feedback line is going to be like today.
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
We like feedback, and if people, have criticisms or they think, oh, this is knowledge that you guys should have, you can email us or something like that. We're pretty good for getting back to people.
Where can they find you? That is a good thing before I let you out of here. Where can they find you?
You can do it, Matt.
At
yeah.
Home with Holmes. We have
Like the @ symbol.
Yeah, the @ symbol. Because
Home with our last name Holmes, like Sherlock
with us,
Holmes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Substack. Yeah, Substack is the one we're trying to
Grow.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where, the revenue comes in, because we still do the 9-to-5 job. We clean toilets for a living.
That's right.
We happen to listen to podcasts while we clean those toilets. But every podcast we do, and then all the editing, as you know, the social media stuff that I don't want to be on my phone all the time. But, this is our mission. We're reciprocating. And so the Substack, and then, you could buy us a matcha, I guess, on Buy Me a Coffee. But otherwise, our emails are on there. You can message us on X if you wanted, because a lot of people follow us there too, and hit us up, and we'll try and improve.
And if there's anybody that's willing to be a guest, we're trying to grow in that realm to also have conversations to expand.
If you want us to pick somebody apart, we'll have them on.
Yeah, well, I mean, but also too, it'd be great to. One of the major points is that in order to get to a place where you have a citizenry that is morally fit and wise about the era and the map that they're in, we got to consider the importance of the culture. And that's meaning we got to take time to believe that we're important to each other. So we want to have shows where we give equipment of intellectual, heart, spirit, whatever the food you feel that you need, so that you can go out and be a community member. I don't know what that's going to look like for every individual that watches our show. I have no idea. A ship can't concern itself with its wake, the Bible said. But you got to sail.